Hello everybody, my name is Chris, and welcome to the long-awaited 5,000 subscriber Q&A. I want to say I appreciate everybody submitting their questions to this, because we had over, I think, maybe like a week or so ago, had broken 5,000 subs, just kind of subtly, and I didn't even notice. That's crazy. I'm sorry. Like, maybe it's not that crazy, but to me it's crazy. 5,000 is that number is wild. Okay? Never in my mind. Realistically, I never planned on this really taking off. It was more like, this will be fun, and if other people like it, cool, right? And whether you join for one thing, multiple things, or even recently for something, I think that's incredible, and I appreciate every single one of you, right? Because that's a crazy milestone. 5,000 people. That's nuts. That's crazy. Oh my god. So yeah, I put it out there, and it was, Q&A, great idea, right? Kaylee suggested it was a great idea. And I put it out there, and a bunch of you submitted questions, a lot of questions, fantastic questions, actually. So I'm excited for this. So for real, everybody that submitted questions, really appreciate you. Also, I was going to try to do another Q&A, actually, way back at 3,000 subscribers. Was it 2,000 and 3,000? And just timing the situation didn't really end up working, so I didn't end up doing it, unfortunately. But I saved every single question from that as well. Now, there were a handful of them, so I've included those in this one. So we'll just do a beautiful bundle of curiosity. So we'll get right into it. A lot of questions, and I'm going to give them as genuine a response as possible, because I care. And I admit it, you guys took the time to actually write these out and ask these things, and I feel like you deserve a genuinely good answer. Now, I'm going to try not to go off on a tangent that is oh so easy for me to do when it comes to any topic, especially something I'm interested in. Otherwise, we'll be here for like 3-4 hours. We can't have that. So, we're just going to start. We're going to start, right? And some of you asked the same question, or similar to the same kind of topic, and so I just lumped those together. So obviously I'll read everybody's name out that submitted questions, but just wanted to give you an idea of what we're going to do. So, all right, here we go. First question from Naomi Jane Plays. Favorite series? Without a doubt, Resident Evil. 100%. And I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill to the end of my days. I love Resident Evil so much. So much. And the thing is, it doesn't really do that great on the channel compared to other videos, right? Other games we've played. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Where a lot of people like more the, very heavy story-based, or RPGs, adventure games, right? Where Resident Evil doesn't really seem to fit in with those, but I love them so much, and I will continue to play them regardless. They could get little to no traction, but I enjoy them, and I like showing them off, because I think they're awesome. They're a lot of fun. Now I'll throw some honorable mentions for other series that I'm a huge fan of, right? Metroid Prime, Devil May Cry, Sonic the Hedgehog, right? And Battlefield. Plain instance, Battlefield 2. Not Bad Company 2. 2. Battlefield 2. Right? So, yeah. Pretty top tier stuff to me. Right? Next question. From also Naomi Jane Plays, because a lot of you guys multiple questions, so I'm going to kind of keep your guys' questions together. I sorted them out. So favorite platformer, right? Didn't specify 2D or 3D, so I said both. Right? Favorite 2D Metroid, Fusion, 100%. Absolutely a blast of a game. So fun. I'm not surprised with one of my favorite series being Metroid Prime, but as a 2D platformer, Metroid Fusion was not only one of my first, but it's easily my favorite, and I could replay that forever. Right, 3D platformer. Sonic Adventure DX. And I consider it a 3D platformer. I think it technically is, but I fucking love that game. Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube was is the next. Obviously, it's the sequel, But something about Adventure DX playing as every Sonic character in the game. They had their different levels, even though some big were not great. But it was cool that after finishing all of them, you got the secret level, the secret character at the very end, which was just like so fucking hype. And as a kid playing through this, losing my mind, and I'll still play it today and have a great time. Right? I throw some couple honorable mentions in there too, just for kicks. Right? Banjo-Tooie. It's another one. Banjo-Tooie. Never played Banjo-Kazooie. Didn't even know that was the first one for the longest time, because I only had Banjo-Tooie. And I rented it from a Blockbuster. Great time. Mario Galaxy and Mario Sunshine. Top tier. Probably the best Mario games to me. Easily. Right? So, how's that? Next question. Favorite characters. Now this one was a bit of a list, so I'll try to go through it pretty quickly. And I know it's like, oh, favorite characters. You know how hard it was to pick anything less, like a minimal list? It was very difficult. Okay, so we're just gonna speed through it. I wrote it down for efficiency. So, Dante and Virgil from Devil May Cry, Wesker from Resident Evil. Specifically, if I had to pick a game one, Code Veronica version of him. God tier, perfect, right? Leon from Resident Evil 4, the original Resident Evil 4. I like the remake Leon. He's cool. I like Resident Evil 2 remake Leon, but the original Resident Evil 4 Leon, absolutely. The amount of like kind of campy humor, sarcasm, over the top stuff, it perfect. I love it so much. Jill from Resident Evil 3, Gustav from Expedition 33, Nathan Drake from Uncharted, Connor from Detroit Become Human, Samus from Metroid, shouldn't be a surprise. Clementine and Lee from The Walking Dead, Garrus and Rex from Mass Effect, my boys. Right, Silence and Aaron from Horizon Zero Dawn. Specifically, their characters and the way that we interacted with them in Horizon Zero Dawn specifically, I just really loved it so much. It was so good. Lambert from The Witcher 3. Definitely from that one quest at that certain point where we're at the the place. Try not to spoil anything, but you know what I mean. That night was absolutely what sold me on Lambert as a character, and I absolutely love him. Love him for that. And Trico from The Last Guardian. Never forget him. Best buddy. A good boy. The best boy. Almost. Right? You could say. Definitely list of my top characters. Obviously, I love a lot of characters. We'd be here all day if I was listing all of them, but those are the top ones that I'd have to say, like, off the top of my head, like, these are the ones that I think about and I like. Right. Next question. Most awaited game to be released. Resident Evil 9. Also should be too much of a surprise. Because, yeah, God, am I waiting for Resident Evil 9. Ever since finishing Village, I was ready. Finishing Village, like, was it 5 years ago? Almost coming up on 5 years. Soon. Right? Coming up on 5 years and, like, maybe, like, a little over a month from now. Resident Evil 9 is my most anticipated. It's a lot of games, but that's definitely the number one. Now, next question. If you could reboot or bring back any game series, what would it be and why? Great question. Great question. So, Battle for Middle-earth 1 and 2, plus the expansion. Right? Those games, it is a tragedy that they are abandonware, and they cannot be got. They cannot be got. They cannot be gotten right now. They can't, right? Because they belong to EA, and then EA didn't. The Lord of the Rings license for EA ran out, therefore they can't distribute the game anymore. Therefore, it just is gone. It's impossible, right? Now there's ways, but I'm just saying that would be 100% that I would bring back easily. Also, the Lord of the Rings movie games, both the Two Towers and Return of the King, I would 100% want to bring those back. It doesn't even need to be a remaster. Not even, just bring them back, widescreen compatible, bring it out on PC, consoles. That's it. Doesn't just leave it alone and just have it run smoothly on widescreen, modern systems. That's it. Right. And the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring, it's not technically part of the movie trilogy, but it did exist, and I am a huge fan of that game. It's a little bold, it's a little old, it's dated, but I think it's fantastic because it plays more into the books than it does the movies. And then you got the Two Towers and Return of the King that are just like top tier Lord of the Rings games ever. Right, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2. Both of those games 100% would bring back. Luckily, they actually did bring back Dark Alliance 1 not too long ago. It was like a handful of years ago. Right, I remember they re-released it. The first one on PS5. Or at least I found it on PS5. I think it might be on Xbox and PC also, but I didn't look. All I know is that I got it at the time. It was like $10. Now, I know what you think. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, didn't even know at the time that was a D&D game. Had no clue. I got this at the time. At the time, I swear, it's gonna sound so dumb, but it literally said it was dark in the name, and it had swords and like magic, and it was top down, kind of like Diablo. And I played Diablo 2 at the time, so I was 100% like, great, yeah, we'll check it out. And so that was my first experience with that, and it was co-op, split screen co-op, very cool. And then the second one, I only had for a few hours. I was renting it through a service called GameFly, where you pay a monthly subscription, and they send you games in the mail, and you return those games and get new games. You switch them out, kind of like the Netflix DVD system, but for video games. It was actually pretty sick. Got a lot of game experience, from that. And then the final one would be Yu-Gi-Oh! Power of Chaos Trilogy. That is 100% what I would bring back. Now, if you're not familiar, probably not. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! So I don't know how many of you guys are even into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or even know much about it, right? You had the Power of Chaos, which was 3 discs. It was Yugi the Destiny, Kaiba the Revenge, and Joey the Passion. The 3 main characters from the anime manga of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was obsessed with Yu-Gi-Oh! Always will be. Huge fan, massive fan. And so these were these 3 separate games, each themed after each of the characters, and they were fully voice acted, and it was like this fully replayable like Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. We played duel monsters, and it was so fun. It was so fun. It was so good, and it was the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules when it was okay, it was fine, and there were no issues. We didn't know what synchro summoning is. We don't know what pendulum summoning was. Things were simple. They were the good times. They were fine, and I miss them so much. I want it mostly because I want it back because they're great games, but also because I just miss playing the old school Yu-Gi-Oh! So bad. Alright, now, last question from Naomi Jane Plays. If you were given a budget to make a film or TV adaptation of any game made to perfection, what would it be? That's a great question. That's a good question, right? Budget for a film or TV adaptation of any game made to perfection. Now, the interesting thing is, I would probably say Mass Effect as a series. Right. I don't know if they're planning it. I feel like there was rumors that it was happening, but regardless, my thing would be I think it would be cool to have a TV series of Mass Effect. Now, whether that it shouldn't touch the games, but it could easily take place before the games plot-wise or post-trilogy plot-wise. Now, I have no idea really what they would do, but the idea is you could do a TV series and you wouldn't be, because it says given the budget to make it to perfection, would not have these arbitrary 8 episode seasons, right? It wouldn't be like, a season every 3-4 years. It would be something where it felt satisfying, where there's enough episodes where you feel like it's worth it and you're actually getting a cohesive story, and every episode feels good to watch and things are happening, and it would just go on for as many seasons as it needed. to tell that story, same per season, however many episodes you need to tell that story properly, without, arbitrary restrictions or predetermining like 7, 8 episodes and then having to squish a story into that, you know? Eh. So, that's my main thing. Now, not gonna lie, I think I would also want to do a Resident Evil. Because I think you take the RE2 story or the RE1 story, I think either of those could be really cool as a movie or as a show, but again, made properly, pacing wise, and I think it would be great. So, thank you, Naomi Jane Plays, for those questions. Now, on to the next. So, Steve, the toy customizer guy. What's up, man? So, first question. What other interests do you have besides gaming? Funny you ask. I have a handful, right? Obviously, TV and movies, they're fun. They're great, right? Big fan of D&D, if it wasn't obvious. I got a lot of D&D stuff back here. Both like up here. Got my books right here, and then below, absolute ton of books. But you can't really see them. But that whole bottom shelf is like, it's like 100 pounds, 50 pounds, 60. I don't know how weight works. It's heavy. It has a lot of books. It's a lot of book. Right? So I love D&D. Even though I don't get to play it often. Right? I don't get to play it too often. Really. But I still love making characters and coming up with little story ideas and, writing out cool encounters that would be neat and backstories and stuff. Right? But I also love to cook. Cooking is a great time. Right? I got a lot of things that I do like to go, I got so many cookbooks. Obviously, I got the Witcher cookbook here. Next to it, I got the Harry Potter cookbook. Behind that, I also have the Dungeons and Dragons cookbook, the World of Warcraft cookbook, the Hearthstone cookbook, and then I also have a couple other cookbooks for various other things. But yeah, love to cook. Great time. Super fun. Right, I also like to, I don't get to do it too often. The Legos are great. Just wish they were cheaper. Right, and so, and I'm sure that there's way more I could go into, right? I like playing Magic the Gathering. That's a lot of fun. I don't really have anybody to play it with, but I like it. Right, I got a couple decks up here. That way, over this way. I got a couple decks, and then also play MTG Arena every now and then. So, yeah, that's that. Obviously more. If you have any questions about any of this too, go ahead and ask it in the comments. Any of the things that I've talked about or have been asked, if you have any additional questions, I'll try to answer them as well. I'll try to reply to you down there. Next question. What music do you listen to? You can't say all music. So, similar question was also asked by Temple277. Both of you had asked, basically, what music do I listen to? That's a great question. Because I listen to an interesting kind of combination. I can't say all music. Of course not. Now, if it's on, I'm going to listen to it. If you put it on in the car or, it's playing somewhere, it's sure, I'll listen to it. I'm not going to, do anything. But if I had to choose my go-tos, right? So, Sabaton, huge. Saw them live. Absolute blast of a time. But I've loved Sabaton for years. Huge, right? Unleash the Archers. Love Unleash the Archers. Brothers of Metal. Massive fan. God, I wish they would tour in the US, but I understand that it's probably not for a while. Ninja Sex Party. Massive. I have every CD by them on another shelf over here, signed every single time they've released an album. Right? Nightwish. Even among their very many changes, love Nightwish. Big fan of Nightwish. Ghost. Twilight Force is another big one. Twilight Force is big for me. Exit Eden. Exit Eden is fantastic. these are all great. I would like they're all. I'm gonna keep saying fantastic and amazing after each one because they are right. So Exit Eden, Rammstein, great time, and Hammerfall, it's fucking awesome. When I went to see Sabaton live, Hammerfall was actually opening for them, so that was like a 2 for 1. It was awesome. Corpus Kalani, big fan. And then kind of a random one, just to kind of toss out there, that I discovered kind of by accident. But Imaginary Flying Machines, right? Japanese group. The album that grabbed me was they did a Studio Ghibli album where they did essentially the like heavy metal covers of the songs from Studio Ghibli, and it was fantastic. And I was hooked. Still am. Right? They also did some other good songs too, but those are my go-tos. Those are my top bands. But I listen to a lot of other ones too. So those are the ones for real. And he also moths. Uh, Last question by Steve, the toy customizer guy. What is, in your opinion, the best game you've played? Right, the best game that I've played, which also was asked by Kaylee Plays Games. Whoa, so best game that I've ever played. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because it is like, well, what defines best? Is it like the best story, the best gameplay, the best experience? Right, the best feel? You know, stuff like that. Well, realistically, it's gonna be kind of a combination. And I know it's gonna be maybe not very expected, but the best game that I've ever played, and to this day I will still stand by, is Tales of Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia was not only, if you don't count Pokemon, Tales of Symphonia was my first RPG, first real RPG, and I played that game so hard as a kid, both on because it was on the GameCube, right? I got it kind of on a whim, because I'd seen it at GameStop a number of times and I ignored it completely, mostly because I didn't understand the title, right? I was like, what's Symphonia? Like, is this like a music game, like a symphony? It was not. Listen, in retrospect, really dumb. I think about it constantly. But yeah, so I was like, Tales of Symphonia, it's got swords and cool stuff on the cover, but I don't know. And then just randomly one day I got it and I was in deep. And then played the game. It came with 2 discs, by the way. 2 discs on the GameCube. Blew my mind when I finally got to disc 2 after so long. It was like insert disc 2 and I'm like, there's more game? It was great. And then I proceeded to spend the next 4, 5, 6 playthroughs playing as each character, doing so many things, right? And hundreds of hours in Tales of Symphonia. Massive fan. It's definitely one of the games I wanted to play on the channel just to show it off, right? As obviously my favorite, but also in case other people haven't seen it. I think it's a great game. So that is that. So thank you, Steve. Appreciate it, man. Now, next questions. Wicked Dummy. First question. What was the first game you ever played? Which was actually also asked by Kaylee Plays Games. What's the first game you remember playing? Now that's pretty easy because it is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I remember that because my mom had the Super Nintendo. She had that game and Donkey Kong Country. And I played the Legend of Zelda so much. Ironically, I never beat the game. Still haven't beat the game because I didn't have it. I still don't have it. So I haven't gone back. But I played that game so hard. I also named my character Zelda because I thought that's how it worked. And then I got really confused even as a kid when you go and save Zelda at the beginning and it's like Zelda, and I'm like, why am I talking to myself? Why are they talking about me? It was weird. I didn't understand. All right, but I would always get to I'd always get to the Dark World, and then I'd get to the Ice Temple that you'd have to go through. the ice dungeon, and I could never do it. Could never do it because I didn't know what you needed to do. So I constantly ran out of magic power, and I never got past that. So as a kid, I would literally get to that point, and then I would delete the game and start a new one because I liked playing the game so much. I would just keep getting back to that point, delete it, start over again. I don't think I could do that now. It's crazy. But at the time, that's how I did it. Because I just really loved it whenever I could, playing it all the time. Now, Wicked Dummy. Next question. What was your motivation to play games on YouTube? That's a loaded question, but in the best way. Because it is something I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. And I'll try to be as concise about it as possible. So my motivation to play games on YouTube was a couple things. One, I was at the time constantly surrounded by the negativity around games in all forms. Not just games, media as well. The sort of attitude of, all games suck now. AAA games are garbage. Indie games are really the ones who are succeeding, which is like, sure, but it was to the point where anything that came out I would try to talk with people about it, and it would immediately be shut down and immediately like slammed and written off within seconds. I'd be like, oh, this game's pretty cool, this looks neat. It's like, yeah, it'll probably suck though. So it's a great game anyway, and then the conversation would shift very quickly. And then, I'd be playing a game, and I'd be playing it for, a good bit of time, and then I'd be like, oh, I'd be like either asked, or, I would just hear other people talking about it. It's like, oh, you're not really that, it's not good. Or, oh, you're terrible for supporting this certain game because, whatever. And so there was so much negativity around it that it kind of sucked. It sucked the joy out of gaming for me for a long time. And by a long time, I mean like a good, almost 2 years. I didn't play any games. Because anytime I started up a video game, it was like that dialogue was always in my head. It was like, oh, why are you playing this game? Shit. You shouldn't be playing this. This sucks. Why are you playing? Why are you doing this? And it would just be so constant, right? That it really fucked me up for games for so long. That's why a ton of games that I have, I've just been sitting on. Because I've not only not gotten around to playing them, but then also some of them I want to play, but that I just felt bad at the time for playing them. And so the channel was an opportunity to try to break out of that. It was to break out and be like, no, I'm going to play these games because I think they're cool and I want to experience them, and I'm gonna push through that kind of negative bubble that's kind of formed, around me, regardless. And at the same time, I want to try to, show off the games for what they are. Try to go in, with a genuine conversation. That's why I talk a lot about games when we're playing them and we're going through them, because, it's that conversation of, you sitting with your friends and you get a new game that comes out, and then you guys talk about it. You're sitting on the couch, hanging out, playing a game together, going through it, shooting the shit, trying to figure out the lore, questioning things. And so that's like the whole vibe that I wanted to bring to the channel, was that. And maybe I don't always nail it, but I try. And so that was my big motivation playing games on here, because not only did I want to show, like, yeah, some of these games are probably really good, and if they're not good, we're going to talk about how they're not good. It's okay, right? But having that, I thought would be fun, and it's cool, and that's where we're at today. And I think I've been trying to do my best to kind of keep that same thing, even though it's not everybody's style, as a Let's Play and playthroughs of games, But yeah, my motivation to play games on YouTube, that is what that is. Now, Wicked Dummy, next question. Do you prefer a good story or good and fun gameplay? Now that's a fascinating question, because 100% gameplay is key, right? It is. It is, because you can have a game with a subpar story or like a negligible story, but if the gameplay is good, you're going to play it and it's going to be fun because it plays well and it's enjoyable. Because you can have a game that has a great story, but it sucks to play. Like, it's clunky, or it's just not very fun, or it just doesn't work, right? But the story could be great. And it's going to be really hard to push through a game that is miserable to play through or just not fun just because the story is really good, right? Whereas the other way around, you could be like, I wish this game had a better story, but man, do I love playing the game. You know, because you could, in a way, and again, I love Devil May Cry 3, and this is not shade towards it at all, but this is an example. If you look at it like this, if you play Devil May Cry 3 and you ignore the story, you don't pay attention to anything, you skip every cutscene, the gameplay is what's fun about that game. The gameplay will keep you playing it, you'll come into it, and you'll enjoy it, regardless of the story. The story may make the gameplay even better, but realistically, gameplay, I think, is the most important part. Because if it's not fun to play, you know, realistically, you're not going to play it. You know? And then let's see, we can do the next question. Do games help you in any way to maybe forget about certain things in real life? That's another deep question. I would say very clearly yes. Yes. Now, forget is not, maybe not exactly forget about things, but sort of be able to kind of decompress from the pressures of reality, right? Whether it's like work or, you know, responsibilities, stuff like that. Being able to sink into something that's both like fun, immersive, and, you know, interesting. Whether that's again like great gameplay or just like a game that's, you know, just got a really good story and you're playing through it and you're having fun, you know. And so play games does help with that. Definitely. Now, next question. Did a game ever change your perspective on a certain topic? That's a great question. Ooh, shit. Did a game ever change your perspective on a certain topic? Now, I would say realistic. There were a couple games that did. But I'll use one as example for this instance, and I think it's kind of be probably a little bit more recently relatable. But a game changed my perspective on a certain topic. Now, I guess for this instance, well, the topic could just be the style of game, right? Like Expedition 33. I know it's been talked about a lot, but I mean this in a very genuine way. It renewed my perspective on turn-based games, which has happened to a lot of people, right? Not even so much for the action-based turns that Expedition 33, you know, kind of does, and like the active inputs and stuff that you have to do for the combat, but the fact that you can have just really good combat and it be turn-based, and it still feels good. I guess like it repositioned my view, because I remember playing older games. Like I played Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, which was turn-based, and we're gonna be real, after coming off of The Two Towers and Return of the King for so long, loving those games, playing The Third Age being turn-based was a real bummer. It really put me off. Even though I thought the game was really neat in a lot of ways, the turn-based system in it, at the time, I was just like, I would rather have an action system, right? It just feel more exciting and more interesting, and feel more like in the moment, right? But then I also remember playing the was like a random port of a random part of Final Fantasy X, because my best friend Jack, he had Final Fantasy X. He had a lot of games. He also introduced me to Devil May Cry. He was the guy, and you know, my man. So he introduced me to Final Fantasy X. It was kind of like a random part of the game, but it was turn-based, and I also was kind of like, well, can't you just like go out of combat and like slash around? Wouldn't that be fun? Would that be better, right? Especially after playing like Devil May Cry. I was like, why are we doing turn-based? Like, this seems kind of backwards, right? And then I also played, I got it as it came out, Final Fantasy 12. Me and him went to GameStop and bought it the day of. I got the steelbook case and everything. And we played the first little bit of the game, and I also I felt the same thing. Combat felt really slow and sluggish, not very interesting compared to like the world and the story and everything else that I thought was really interesting. So Expedition 33 has set me into this new mindset of, you know what, these other games might actually be worth giving a shot again, because at the time my perspective was definitely more action is more fun than turn-based, mostly because the turn-based games to me probably were less fun than the action combat. But now I feel like I see it completely differently. Not that one's better than the other, but they can both be really good when they're done really well. And I was just being, kind of ignorant as a teen, right? So hope that answers that question. Obviously there's probably a number of other topics that were probably changed because of games, but that's a big one. Now the other question, what do you think a game is doing better than a movie? Another good question. Game's better than a movie. What does a game do better than a movie? I think a game does better than a movie what a game does better than a movie is immersion. And you can do so much more. Realistically, you can do so much more in a game than you can in a movie, right? And I'll explain both parts pretty quickly. One, immersion-wise, you are physically in control of whatever's happening. Even if it's simply moving something from one spot to another spot, you are physically, tangibly doing that, and you feel more in tune and connected to what's happening on the screen than watching a movie, where you can kind of either self-insert yourself or kind of put yourself in the headspace of one of the characters. But at the end of the day, you're still kind of just watching something, that has been filmed and created in a very specific way play out, which is fantastic. It's great. And this isn't like, one's better than the other. It's more like in a game, you can, because there's so many games to do examples for, like, especially with RPGs, but you just go with something as simple as like Zelda, right? Ocarina of Time, for example. Ocarina of Time, you go out, you can walk around just about anywhere that you want to that's in the game. You can decide to go over here, you can go over there, you can go search around in this grass, you can go fight these guys over here. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? And that level of control feels better and more immersive than if you tried to do that kind of thing in a movie, right? And as well, the budgets would be way different. I could theoretically, right? You could have an infinite world created digitally, right? Assuming technology, storage, performance, everything was present. You could have, in a way, a one-to-one scale of virtually anything digitally. Whereas doing that in a movie with like CGI, stuff like that, the process could be similar, but it's going to be a lot harder, more time-consuming. And you could create a model of a house in a like a video game, and you could create a whole village, right? Then you can copy and paste that village like 1,000 times. And you could probably do that with CGI. But the fact that you're mixing it with like live action actors, or if you do it like fully CGI, there's differences in both. But my point being, where this goes in even longer, is that I think video games do a lot better with immersion, and there's a lot more potential because you don't actually have physical live. And when I say like live, you have motion capture, but you don't have a literal live actor being filmed. You can have somebody do crazy backflips. You can project powers and worlds literally melting and warping and changing. Right? You can do that with CGI. But it's a lot harder to do that with live action actors in a CGI green screen environment that you need the physical space for. Whereas in a video game, you have a virtual space that is essentially unlimited. Only actually hindered by like technological standards or technological availability. Right, at the time. That makes sense. Now, last question. Wicked Dummy, what other hobbies do you enjoy? Right, which is similar to what Steve asked, right? What other interests do we have besides gaming? And so a lot of it is D&D, D&D, collecting little figures, statues, painting miniatures for D&D. Haven't gotten to Warhammer because I don't have, I don't have like $30,000 to drop on like 2 models. So one day maybe that'd be exciting. Check that out. But yeah, those are a lot of cool like side activities. But more fun with other people. That's for sure. Now, next question from Tassior222. Well, what do you think about backseat gaming and spoilers for the game you're currently playing? This happens every now and then in the comments. It really does. It truly does. It happens with every game. Some games it hadn't happened with, which was honestly shocking. Right? Like when we played The Last of Us Part 2 and we played like Horizon Zero Dawn. Those are the 2 off the top of my head that I know for sure nobody spoiled anything for. Now again, Last of Us Part 2 was very early on in the channel, so there wasn't really a whole lot of people comparatively, right, to spoil. But those that were, like, commenting and part of the playthrough, they didn't spoil anything. It was fantastic. It was really nice. But it has happened a lot. And I do often go back, like for Mass Effect, right? Somehow managed to dodge spoilers for that entire trilogy. However, going back, because I'd give it some time, and then I would go back and look at the comments and try to like catch up on them. There are some people that were just straight up with spoilers, just throwing it out there, and I think that kind of sucks, right? Because like, what if there are people watching that aren't, they're not familiar, they get spoiled, which I would feel bad about, but at the same time, it does kind of suck. And I know it comes from a place of excitement like 99% of the time. So I'm not trying to be like super hard on anybody for putting spoilers, because I know you just get like hyped up. You're like, oh man, you want to check this out? I can't wait for you to see this. This is going to be really cool. Oh, you made this decision, so now you get to see what this happens. It's going to be really neat. Watch out for, this mission. You're going to see something interesting, stuff like that. And I totally understand it. So I'm not that harsh on it. But it does, spoilers wise, kind of sucks. Backseat gaming, there's a positive and a negative to it. Positive is there's a lot of niche things that you may not really know about certain games, and then there's also some things like, oh hey, this weapon's better than this one because of whatever reason, or there's certain bugs in these areas, so watch out. Or oh hey, this skill, I know you think this skill's really cool that you chose. This other one is actually really good too, so you should try that out sometime, because that'd be neat. That'd be really cool. And stuff like that's cool. I think the downside to backseat gaming is when it starts out like, okay, make sure it's an RPG, like you pick what you want, choose what you want to do, like for Mass Effect and stuff, and then later on, I'll choose choices or something, right? And then some people will be like, I don't know why you chose this. That's weird. You should obviously have chosen this one. Because this makes more and more sense, and it works with, it synergizes with this way more. And it's like, oh, I don't know why you're picking this character to go with you on this mission, when this mission would actually be way better with this character. And it's like, well, I want to hang out with this character. I think it'd be neat. It's like, yeah, well, okay, that's fine, but you're missing out on a lot of stuff by not picking this one character. And it happens in a lot of games, not just Mass Effect, but like other games too. And I think that's kind of like the downside, because it's kind of a bummer. Because like, okay, well, I'm making my own choices. I'll make mistakes, 100%, right? Because I've never played the games before, and everybody who is commenting oftentimes has played it 2, 3, 4 times, if not more. So they know all the outcomes. They know all the ins and outs. I'm trying to figure it out on the fly. So I'll mess up things. I'll choose the wrong ability every now and then. I might choose the suboptimal weapon, but most of the time I'm doing it because I want to check it out, or I think it's fun, or maybe I check it out and it sucks and I'm like, man, I'm glad I checked that out, so now I know. Stuff like that. So I hope that answers the question. Thanks. Now, some of all things. Next questions. Would you do this as a full-time profession if you could, or do you prefer to keep it as a fun side hobby? That's also a great question, because I think obviously the initial quick vibe is yes, of course I would do this full time as a profession if I could, right? Not just because there's a lot of potential, right? And obviously over time I hope, right? I feel like I've got a little bit better at being able to articulate my thoughts, like actually gonna go through games a little bit better, and not just kind of like speed through certain sections, or skip things, or assume people don't want to see certain things, stuff like that. But also that it opens up so much more potential for the social aspect, right? Like the back and forth. An example, like you could do like live streams, obviously like story games on live streams would be a lot trickier, probably not the best, mostly because of like the focus and immersion. But like other things could be really fun, like that's sort of the actual social interaction that is really neat, between people, not just in where I am in the US, but then also like outside in other countries. And it's just kind of like that mixing pot of conversation and ideas is really cool, right? That's why I made the Discord, because I thought that'd be a cool place to do that, as well as on here. Sort of that more live back and forth could be possible. Now, as a fun side hobby, of course I love it, but it's always that feeling of like, I want to do more. Sometimes I just, because of having a full-time job, I don't really have a lot of time for this. So whenever I do have time, any spare time, it's literally this. I funnel all of my energy into the channel that I can, right? So if there's ever like a shorter video, it's mostly because I ran out of time, not because I didn't want to do it. And if there's ever days that don't have videos or skip it, it's 100% because I don't have the time. And if I only have like a little bit of time, a small amount of time, I'd rather not do a video, right? Than to try to force one out really quickly. Because if my heart's not in it and I don't have the time and I feel like we gotta rush it, it's like, that's not gonna be good. That's not gonna feel good for anybody. It's not gonna feel good for me. It's not gonna be good for you guys. It's not gonna be very fun to watch, I'm sure. And it's not very good for the game, right? Because it's just, overall, it's bad. So hope that answers the question. Yep. So next one. What do your friends and family think about your channel? All right. So family doesn't really know about it too much. Family's in the other side of the country, and not a lot of interaction. But I believe that they're aware of it. And then friends. So they know that we don't talk about it a whole lot too much, right? Because most of the games that I do play, things that I do, it's not really their cup of tea either, so to speak. They like their like specific games that they like, and a lot of the ones that we played just aren't really their thing. But one of my friends, she's very, very supportive of the whole thing. Always watching, checking it out. So it's cool. And then next one. Who are other gamers or Let's Players do you enjoy watching, if any? Glad you asked. There's a handful. Now, obviously, watch a lot of the bigger channels too, but I would say the ones that I like really get into, or have definitely more recently, but also in the past. Kaylee Plays Games, huge. Randomly was recommended for God of War playthrough, and then that just kind of spurred through that series, and then watched a bunch of her backlog too, and it was really funny, really great. So I was 100% like, okay, cool, that's awesome. And then Shenanigans, also kind of same situation. Uh, Recommended her Mass Effect 1 playthrough randomly. It was a random part of the game. I'm not gonna spoil which one, but it was a random video. It just came up in my recommended, and I watched that too. And Kaylee also ended up playing Mass Effect, and I was able to catch up on both of their series because I had finished. By the time I had finished the trilogy, I was going back and watching them play through the trilogy. It was awesome. Right. Also, another one, Luca L Plays. Right. I'll put all these in the description too, just so spelling wise. Right. He's really cool. French Canadian gentleman. Really funny. Really knowledgeable. Really talented. Way better than me at games sometimes. Yeah. Real cool dude. Clueless Gamer Mom is another one. An absolute gem that I was blessed with from the algorithm on YouTube Shorts. And she's a nice lady. She's currently playing The Witcher 3, and she's absolutely a gem. She's super nice, super funny, and it's great. And I couldn't recommend it more. Another one is Rachel Sev. Right, she's primarily a Twitch streamer. She has a YouTube channel, but she primarily streams on Twitch, and been following her for several years. Really, same energy as everybody else so far. Just wholesome, fun, funny, really good. A couple of the bigger ones that I follow, right? Lana Pierce, I like watching her stuff. Critical Role in Dimension 20, massive fans, obviously. Like, yeah, like, what else is there to say? Two incredible D&D channels, and there's also a number of other D&D channels that I also do watch. That if you want to know, let me know, and I'll let you know those too. Gab Smulders, I like a lot of her stuff. Very, very wholesome vibes. Luality is great. Radical Soda, and Josh Strife Hayes. A lot for his worst MMO ever. It allows me to experience these MMOs without actually having to dedicate 40 to 100 plus hours to find out I may not like them. But it's always very charming and witty. Sorry about that. The cat wanted to leave, so now we're back. So, next question after those. What bothers you most about playing games on YouTube? YouTube guidelines and regulations? Editing your videos? Backseat gamers? People who give spoilers? As examples. So these are all pretty solid. Now, I'd say YouTube guidelines and regulations hasn't really been an issue. It hasn't. Right? We at least for what we do so far hasn't really come up, so like, thank God for that. I would say probably the only thing with YouTube is sometimes the copyright system, which I know everyone talks about, but sometimes it'll be for like 2 seconds of a track in something, right? 2 seconds, and it claims the entire video, and it's like, okay, great. Which again, if the ad revenue goes away, that's one thing, but oftentimes, even some of the like the Witcher videos, right? Like the Witcher videos, there was a couple of them. The Witchers in BioShock, when we played those, they got not only did they get, copyright claimed, but they got restricted. So they were forced out of like a number of countries, as well as some of the Witchers, even though I censored them very well. I mean, like, very well. I censored them. Right? They were basically forced to be adult only, and it just kind of completely. If you weren't subscribed to the channel and you didn't know about them, you probably wouldn't even see those videos. So those were unfortunate. And I tried to, get manual reviews, and didn't really work. But it is what it is. I'd say that was kind of unfortunate. Editing videos, I would say, really is time consuming. It's very time consuming, mostly because of how the process works, right? And so I try to make it a little bit easier for in two ways, right? Obviously, if you've seen some of the videos before, I try to do them in like one, like one solid go. I try to do as many minimum cuts as possible, mostly because I do want the feeling of, we're all like realistic. Like I explained before with why I do the videos, why I decided to play games, is that feeling of like, we're playing through it together, we're hanging out, we're watching it, we're playing it, right? And so the least amount of cuts possible aids, I think, that feeling, right? But as well, it also cuts down on editing time. Right now, I don't get really fancy with the edits. I don't really know how to edit super fancy. I haven't really taken the time to learn either. But I also feel like, I don't want to do like crazy effects and sounds and transitions and stuff, right? But it does take time. So as an example, right, I put out like a 2-hour video. It could probably take me like 10 minutes to edit it, like cut it up. Then to basically turn that edit into a final video, I have to render it. In that rendering process, that can often take between 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the video. And so while that's happening, I just have to wait. I have to wait. There's nothing else I can do for like the next 45 minutes to an hour. I just have to wait for it to finalize. Then I have to make the thumbnail. Thumbnail can take between 10-20 minutes, depending on, how, if I can get like a good shot from the video and stuff like that, because I want something that both looks really, tells what's going on in the video, but without, being, super, like what's the word? Immersion breaking, right? Without it being like too crazy looking. And then after once it's finalized, right? So the thumbnail's made, the video's done. I have to upload that to YouTube. That upload can take between a half an hour to an hour, depending on the size of the video as well. So we're talking probably like a good 2 hours at least, right? Maybe 2.5 of just the process from starting edit to getting it up and completely uploaded to YouTube. So that can take a lot of time. And I'd say that is probably one of the hardest parts. And I say hard because it's just time consuming. So if I want to get up a video in the same day, that is very hard to do. It's very hard to do within reason. Like, because I could record it at 8 a.m., finish it by 10 a.m., have it edited and uploaded by like 12:30, and so, even though it feels like, oh man, whenever I get behind, it sucks because I know, oh, now I've pushed the time later. But I hope that makes sense. That is for editing videos, right? Backseat gamers, it's unfortunate, but a lot of you guys are helpful. A lot of you guys are very, very nice and kind and good. Right? There are very few people in between that are backseat gamers as far as super not. I don't want to say I love criticism. Constructive criticism is fantastic. Big fan. Always asking for it. It's when it gets to be kind of just deconstructive criticism that is kind of like, well, if it's a game about choice and I'm making choices, but then it turns out, oh, I'm not making the right choices, and I should be making these other choices, then at what point are they my choices? You know what I mean? Because there were a lot of people that by looking back, that wanted me to play Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 in a very specific way, missions in a very specific order, and to take very specific people with very specific missions. Now, occasionally I would take certain people on certain missions because, people are like, oh, it's totally worth doing. And I'm like, you know what? I don't see a reason not to take them, so sure, why not? We'll do it. But a lot of time, there were a few times like, oh, I did this mission before this one, and I think in Mass Effect 1, got a backlash because I did the asteroid DLC, and there was a few people that gave me flack for it because like, how could you, what are you doing, why are you playing the DLC for? why are you doing the DLC right now? That doesn't make any sense. Like, this is so stupid. What the fuck? And I'm like, well, in the game, it doesn't tell you what's a DLC or not. It doesn't. And in the Legendary Edition, it's all included, so I don't even have a list of the DLC. So I was just going by what sounded neat. Right? So that was an experience. That has happened in other games too, but I'd say probably the spoilers is probably the most awkward. Because it's like, okay, well, if spoilers start to, pop off, really, that means I have to look at the comments less often, or I have to be more careful about the comments, which kind of pulls back a lot of the engagement, right? Because I like to respond to the comments and I like to read them all, right? I try to read every single comment you guys write, 100%. I mean it. But whatever spoilers start popping up, I have to pull back, and it sucks, you know. So, next question. What are your favorite standout moments for you in games you've played this far as a Let's Player? A quest that stood out for a moment, when the community helped you, specific storyline, as examples. So, some of all things, that's a good question, because there's a couple really standout moments. One, we beat Alien Isolation on Nightmare mode on the first ever time going through it, and I don't care. That is like a crowning achievement. If I could frame that, I feel like that's so cool. That felt so good to do. Because I was picking up map pieces, never got a map. I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't realize you didn't get a map in Nightmare mode. And then the motion tracker being janky, but I adapted to it. It felt so much more immersive, right? Just having to memorize the hallways and everything and listen to where, the alien and then the androids and where everything else is, and like try to like remember locations for things. And I thought it was so good. It was so good. So to this day, that is easily one of the most standout moments on the channel for me. 100%. My God. Right? And then Mass Effect 1. The one of the big conversation that occurs towards the end. Not gonna spoil it. Not gonna spoil anything, right? Because I worked very hard to not spoil anything in that entire trilogy. So hard, right? Which I'll talk about that in a note too, just for case. If you look at the entire trilogy of Mass Effect, I tried very, very, very hard to make sure that no spoilers were in thumbnails or titles. Really hard, because every time I discovered something, I wanted somebody else to have that same feeling that maybe didn't play it. And I know it's very easy on YouTube for people to come up with thumbnails and titles that are just spoilers, just straight up like names, pictures, events, bam, right there. And that sucks to come across. It happens a lot with new games. Whenever they come out, people just like throw it out there. Fuck it. Right? But I didn't want to do that because I was really enjoying Mass Effect and I had such a good time. I wanted people to have that same kind of like brand new, unknown feeling. So, with that, those who know what I'm talking about. But this is like a core memory at this point. That whole situation was amazing. So good. So good. Right, stood out for when the community helped. Oh man, so many times. Genuinely. A lot of through Expedition 33. A lot of it, whether it was like, certain abilities like making sure like Luminous and Pictos and the best way to like kind of use those versus stacking, like using like Pictos for the stats and then using the Luminous for the actual abilities, and then kind of like working with that, and then certain ability synergy stuff, all that kind of stuff I thought was really great that I wasn't really picking up on right away. I was kind of making it work, but I was able to make it a little bit better. I think that was a lot of fun. Right, kind of same with Mass Effect 3. Right, some of the game mechanics were different from Mass Effect 2. I'd say a lot for the better. And understanding like specifically, it's not. No, that's a spoiler. Weight. The weight system. If you know. That's about all I'm going to say about that. The weight system. Understanding how that worked and being able to utilize it properly in certain situations was really good because I initially was not using it very well. Later on, definitely did. And so those were really cool. And then Horizon Zero Dawn, right? I'd say definitely a lot of the climax of that story was just like such a cool moment. I would say it wasn't like a community helped, but it was sort of this experience of like me seeing it, not like putting the story together, and then everybody else in the comments were like, yes, okay, now we can talk about it, and it's like a whole back and forth, we're all chatting about it, you know. It's similar things happen with Mass Effect and The Witcher 3, and The Witcher 3 is another good one, right, as far as like using the abilities, right, and then later in the runes and the combination of those, right, that basically not exactly like a build, but understanding how the skills work, how they could work, how the combat worked, because I was not great at the combat at the beginning of that game. I was very much like hack and slashing it, but it wasn't a good idea. So instead, people gave me a lot of advice, a lot of tips. Ended up being really, I'd say I got pretty decent. Was I perfect? No, but I felt pretty cool by the end of the game. What we were able to do. So I'd say yeah. I'd say that I hope those kind of answer those questions. But there's obviously probably dozens more examples. Now, if you could do anything to change your channel, what would it be, if anything? That's a good question. That's a great question. If I could do anything to change the channel, what would it be, if anything? I would realistically, I'm of the point of view, we got where we are, I'm where I am because of both the things that I did both right and wrong, right? The stumbling, like the not great things have led to this point as well. So I'd say, would I change anything? Probably not. But if I did, I would say probably in the early stages of the channel, I would be a little bit more the way that I am now, as far as a little bit more immersive and a little bit more deeper into the games. Because early on, I was trying to kind of not over engineer, but sort of overthink, right? I tried to think for you, if that makes sense. Sort of think like, oh, what do they want to see? You know, what do people want to watch? Rather than, you know, do something that I think is really cool and interesting, and then, you know, if people like it, they like it. So, as an example, God of War, the 2018 God of War, when we played through that, I didn't do any of the side missions, didn't do any of the side quests at all, because I was like, okay, well, people want to see this because they want to see the story, they want to see the main story, so we go through the main story, right? Every side quest, every like search for, you know, exploration items and stuff like that, I was like, there's a waste of time, because they don't want to see that. They want to see the main story, the main plot. And so I skipped a lot of stuff. And it happened a few times in some playthroughs. It even happened for the first couple episodes of The Witcher 3. Until there was a comment from a user named Kai. Right? Not... And the thing is, that comment resonates with me to this very day. Right? And it's honestly, it's damn near like a mantra for the channel. Right? And I'll put it up on the screen here too. But I think about it, right? I say Kai because I know if I have no idea how to pronounce the other. I have no idea how to pronounce the other part of your name. I am so sorry. Kai Konechny? I'm so sorry. All right, but he said so. So this was in reference to somebody else had commented, like, you know, wow, we're at the. So the comment was, we're at the Red Baron, Red Baron. Jesus Christ, we're at the Bloody Baron already. We're at the Bloody Baron. Wow, we're really making progress. And I was like, oh really? I thought I was going pretty slow. I thought it was taking too long, right? And then he comments, right? They comment, what does taking too long even mean in this context? Isn't that the point of playing a game? To play it for as long as it's fun, do as much as possible, as you get everything out of it? you seem to have decided that the point of you playing a game on your channel is to get to the end now. Because one person might complain they're not seeing the whole story fast enough. Chill. Like, royally chill. And that I cannot overstate it enough how that is so key to a pivot of the content on the channel into that direction. Right? It became a lot more like, oh yeah, wait, why am I rushing? And that was during The Witcher 3. Right? So then I like really sunk in. I was like, no, you're right. Why are we rushing to the end of the game? Why are we trying to finish it as if this, oh, we finished the game really quickly, get on to the next game so we can finish that one, to get on to the next one so we can finish that one. It's not a race, right? And so, I really sunk into it. I started to like pay attention to like the locations and the skills, and I was reading every side quest. I was reading every signpost, with all the postings that were in some of the towns. Right? I was making sure to do crafting very often. And then we started playing other games, and I was really trying to think through and really absorb everything that was going on and being like, it's okay. It's okay is what it's here for. They put it in the game so we could, bask in it, absorb it, enjoy it. And so that legitimately changed my entire perspective. And I have been doing my best since then to kind of embody that feeling. And like I said before, it's not everybody's thing, right? Some people just want to see a very straightforward playthrough, just right in. They don't want to see they don't want to see what would be like a 40-hour game go for 60 hours on a playthrough. They don't. But at that point, I'd say, then realistically, I think my style's not for you, right? And if it is, it is. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that if it's not. But I hope that makes sense. So thank you, some of all things, for those questions. Excellent. We got a handful more. All right, we got a handful more. We're doing great on time. It's not 3 hours yet. We're doing great. All right. So Kaylee plays games. So this was one of the first questions was, what made you want to start this channel? Right, which I did previously answer. So a lot of it can reference that last answer, because I feel like I said it a lot better than I would say it now. But really, it's a lot about bringing that couch hangout, playing games with your friends vibe. Where you're talking about the lore, you're talking about the characters and the situations, and you're looking at the skills, or you're looking at the world, and you're poking around, and maybe you're not picking the right things all the time, and then later you realize, oh shit, this would have been really cool if we picked that earlier, but we didn't. But now we know, so we could maybe change it. Stuff like that. Right? And then, so the other question is, what got you into gaming? What games are you most looking forward to? Well, it got me into gaming. So the first game that I ever played was the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. The second game I ever played was Pokemon Red version on my Game Boy Pocket. My Game Boy Pocket that I got from my brother when he got a Game Boy Color. My Game Boy Pocket was running on batteries that we didn't have, so I had an AC power adapter for it, which plugged into the side, and it had to plug into the wall. And the cord was maybe about this long. So I had to constantly sit by the plug and play Pokemon. I had to make sure to save it before, turning it off, because it didn't have batteries. And so those really got me into gaming. At the time, realistically, being such a young kid, like I didn't pay attention to like the story or whatever was going on. I was just kind of like vibing, going through. Like I knew a lot of the character names, and I still recalled a lot of like the story for, going through Pokemon Red and Zelda. I just didn't really like grasp like what are we doing? Like what does this all mean? But that was my introduction to video games. And then after that, I got into games. Like my friend at school, in elementary school, he had an N64, which I ended up getting later that year for Christmas, which was super hype. But he had an N64. He had Super Smash Brothers. I didn't know what that was, and then we played it, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is rad. This is awesome, right? And that was a lot of fun. F-Zero was a blast. Huge fan still. I just want to play F-Zero GX again. Man. But also, you know, I also got some weird games. Like Pokemon Hey You Pikachu. Right? If anybody remembers that. And if you don't remember it, it was this really kind of janky game where you played as a kid and you had a Pikachu and you had a microphone that you would attach to your N64 controller. And that microphone would plug into the N64 and you would hold the trigger button on the N64 controller and you would speak into the microphone to tell Pikachu things. Whether it was like, pick this up, eat that, you know, come here, stuff like that. And they're very basic commands, and it wasn't really perfect all the time. It wasn't. I remember it was very janky. But yeah, it's just like those early games, and then it just spurred off into, you know, got Ocarina of Time. And I fell in love with that game so badly. So hard. I fell in love with Ocarina of Time. And then Super Mario 64. Super, super, super great. And those essentially, because I liked Link to the Past so much, Ocarina of Time was obviously like, oh, it's a Zelda game. Easily, I'm on board. Right? And then, essentially, anytime a Zelda game came out, I was like, I'm on board. Great, let's do it. Let's play it. It'll be awesome. And kind of same thing with the Mario games. So after Mario 64, I got a GameCube, and then Sunshine came out. And so Sunshine came out, and then Wind Waker came out, and so I was like, great, but easy. And then we got Twilight Princess that came out, and then later on with Wii, you know, I got Mario Galaxy, and it was just kind of like this kind of domino effect of starting out with these really simple games, and them just being accessible. Right? I played like Contra, because my brother had a, I believe it was Sega, if I am correct. It might have also been Super Nintendo, but I know he had a Sega. I played the original Sonic games on there too. But it was sort of like, that's what we had in the house, and that's what we kind of did aside from, you know, playing run around outside. So that would essentially be the start of games, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. So whenever I heard about games like Donkey Kong Country we had on Super Nintendo, so when I got an N64, Donkey Kong 64 was there, and it's seeing all the characters in 3D. And it was just that. And now, you know, what is it? I think about 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I started Steam, and I realized just how many games are out there, and how many games I've missed, and this is a whole thing. So, again, I don't want to go to a tangent that I've already gone on, but essentially, I hope that answers your question. Right, because again, there's more I could talk about, but if you want to know, give me a comment. We'll chat. Right? So, Kaylee plays games. The next question: what do you enjoy most about the channel? What do you enjoy the least? Great question. What do I enjoy the most? The almost collaborative back and forth of all the playthroughs that we've done. Right? And at least the way I see it, right? It's like I am physically playing it, and it is like, you know, like it's my playthrough, but taking, you know, the feedback and the tips and advice and stuff like that from you guys often kind of makes it more interesting and exciting. More feels like we're playing it together. Like, oh, hey, go look here, or what is that over there? You know, oh, you know, there's this thing I might want to check out on this mission at some point. You know, some stuff can be pretty spoilery, and oftentimes I've luckily been able to dodge it. But the general sentiment being, you know, it's the fun of playing it together, right? I think is really cool, versus just playing it by myself. And then what do I enjoy the least? Aside from spoilers, which are all, again, once we know what's happening, it's cool to go back and talk about those things. I think that's fantastic, but in the moment, not very great. The other thing is you say like, yeah, there can be some tension, I guess, between series, which I think kind of does suck. And I want to say it doesn't really suck because it does kind of suck for me, right? But I think it mostly sucks because I worry that it affects the games and it affects you guys. Whereas, like, I'll put out. Well, it was a great example. We were playing Resident Evil and Mass Effect at the same time, right? Various Resident Evils during one of the Mass Effects, whether it's one or two, right? And whenever, because I have very limited time, I have to pick and choose, like, what do I record, what videos we put out, and so I'd have to make a choice sometimes. And whenever Resident Evil would come out, a lot of the time, I would get reached out to, and saying, "Where's Mass Effect? Where's Mass Effect going? When's that coming back?" And I was like, "Well, we had a video of Mass Effect yesterday, and today's Resident Evil, so I'm hoping to put out Mass Effect tomorrow." But a lot of times it would be maybe like 2 days with no videos, and then I put out a Resident Evil, and then I'd get a few messages or some comments, and it would just be like, "So are we just not finishing Mass Effect at all? Are we just..." Because and they'll be like, "Because to be honest, I'm not a fan of Resident Evil. I really like that you're playing Mass Effect. So I'd really like if you could put out more Mass Effect, that would be really great. Because I just don't really care for Resident Evil." And I'd be like, "Oh, I mean, like, I get it. It's cool. But I feel like those that would be excited for one or the other, and sort of that kind of feeling in between, I guess, can make it like awkward. Because I understand everyone's got their favorite game. They like certain games. Like when we were playing Mass Effect, any game that wasn't Mass Effect would obviously not attract the same group of people. Sometimes there would be crossover. It's cool. But there's never really a point where I'm like, okay, this is more or less important, right? If that makes sense. And then, what is your favorite thing to do outside of the channel / gaming? It's a good one. Now, some examples. One, barbecuing. I've been figuring out how to do that for the last like 8 months, 8 months, and that's been fun, right? A lot of burgers, steaks, hot dogs, right? But also pork loins. It was very cool. I put a roast out there. That took a long time. Didn't realize that. It'd be like several hours, but it worked. It's great. But outside of obviously cooking and stuff, taking the dog to the park, and then also a lot of D&D. I don't have anybody to play it with, unfortunately. R.I.P. me. But the character creation, I like making characters, coming up with character concepts all the time. Writing ideas for either adventures or scenarios or like sections of the world. Be really neat. As far as also, researching like the lore, I find really fun because there's always new stuff coming out as far as the books or stuff that I haven't really known about, and I'm kind of catching up on or looking into prior stuff. And so with that, I also like going to every few months there's some sort of Renaissance fair or Viking festival or just event that's happening, whether in my city or a city kind of nearby. So whenever there's a Renaissance fair, I try my best to be there, right? I got like 3 different outfits, and it's just for fun, just cool hanging out, right? I also like to paint miniatures. I have like a dozen or so that I still need to paint, and I haven't yet. And I thought, like, it'd be kind of a cool, like, maybe like a chill stream one day, right, where we just hang out and paint stuff, maybe build some Legos or one of the things, this guy right here, this the Going Merry from One Piece. It's a physical, it's a model, right? I gotta cut it out and piece it together, put everything on it, and I thought that'd be fun too. So, so I thought that'd be a fun activity for us to do. But yeah, those are some of the things, right? Um, so for what is it? Next one. If you could enter a game for a day, what game would it be? Pokemon. Pokemon. 100%. Because I'm gonna take this as it's like I'm just a normal person, right? I'm not some like I'm not like the main character. I'm not some like crazy. Uh, it's like you go into like Dragon Ball, and you're Saiyan with some crazy powers, or I'm more like the average citizen inside like an Attack on Titan episode. you know, Something like that. And so Pokemon would be my go-to. Why? Because you get to hang out and collect. I say collect, but you get to meet, catch, and raise, interact with these cool ass creatures, right? And there's like that bond that forms. Like they're chilling. They have this like wild ability to like actually understand you. And there's like that synergy, and then obviously you battle them with other people, but I'd say like outside of that, right? It's just cool to just hang out. You explore the world, right? It's not uncommon, and I feel like that could be really fun, especially because you meet tons of other people who have other Pokemon, and you just chill, right? You could just go walk around the cities, you know, just go to the shops, go to, you know, just go have a nice time. And I feel like that'd be a fun world to be in. Also less likely to die, but that's not the point. The point is to be fun and interesting. And that was a lot of questions. Don't feel like you have to answer them all. Joke's on you, I answered every single one of them. Yeah. All right. Next one, Matt Rowland. What's up, Matt? What is your beard care routine? The infamous question. It was bound to come up eventually. So I'll go through really quickly. So, beard care. It is a process. It is a process, and it is there's stages. Right. I have specific shampoo and conditioner that I use for that, which is very different than it's like specifically designed for your beard. It's very different. It's very nice. It's very good. And I buy it from the one company I'm using right now it's a very good company. And they got great customer service, as well as it's all natural stuff. They like swear by like no animal testing and everything, so it feels good. They got a lot of great scents. And so process, shampoo, conditioner, and then afterwards I'll use either, depending on the temperature outside, or if I'm going outside that day, we'll do a beard cream, right? So for moisturizing, and then also go over with an oil, right, to keep the skin and roots and everything hydrated and a little bit of a shine, make it nice. It can get a little messy if it's warm. If it's warm at all, it can come off very easily if it's not dried. And so very seldom we'll do oil unless the temperature permits, or going somewhere very fancy. And then I also have a pomade, right, which is almost kind of like a wax, almost. For those that might not know, it's very much for like hold. So for a lot of like the flyaways and everything, it works as kind of like an overlayer instead of oil. You can do both, but a lot of times I'll just do one or the other depending on the circumstance. I also have a heated beard brush, which essentially is just a fancy word for a beard straightener. And for a lot of fancier occasions, a little fancier moments, I'll use that. I have a protective spray to put on there to protect it from heat. And this process takes like a good like 15-20 minutes sometimes, depending. Right? So it's a lot. It's a lot. And I've committed to it. Because if I don't do it, and if you what's the best way to say it? If you have a beard, doesn't matter the length, beard oil, beard creams, incredible for you. right? Not only does it get rid of the itch that does exist, just because it gets dry, because your face is your facial skin is literally covered, but it also just feels a lot better, and it'll make sense. Okay, trust me. If you haven't done it, give it a try. Trust me, it's good. Good for you. Right. And have you ever had real Kansas City barbecue? I have not. I could say for a fact I have not. I've had North Carolina barbecue, and I've had uh Northern Southern California barbecue. There's a place, there's a really good smokehouse out here that's really good. And they got like the smokers indoor, or they got the smokers on site, and they're smoking literally like 24/7. So like the meat they're smoking the day before, you're eating it the next day. So whenever you're ordering meat, it could not be fresher. And so it's so good. And North Carolina barbecue it's very good, but it's very vinegary, which I'm not like the biggest fan of the vinegar taste, but there have been some good restaurants out there. Kansas City barbecue. The only thing I really know about it is you got the burnt tips, and that's some of the best part. And I know it's not technically like burnt; it's just kind of like the name for it. But no, I need to experience real Kansas City barbecue. 100%, really do. Oh, he's so good. And then, so that's because so you put on a jacket you hadn't worn in almost a year. You find $50 in it. What do you spend that on? That's a great question. So, initially, off the top of my head, I would probably spend it on my girlfriend. And what I mean is, she works nights and overnights, oftentimes sometimes between the hours of like 6:30 p.m. to around 6 a.m. You know, it could vary by like a half an hour, but it's really rough overnight shifts. You know, so I would instantly be like, okay, well, I can use this as we got $50, buy some coffee or energy drinks, whichever helps, right? Make it easier. Also, if we have to get her like a lunch, something quick, right? Send her like $20, buy something, you know, not terrible. And anything that would be left over, I would also just be like, put it in gas to save time driving around. I would initially that is my first very first reflexive reaction if I found $50 that I didn't know I had. Right. So, thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it. Matt Rowland, thanks for asking those questions. Thank you everybody so far for all these really good questions, and I hope I'm answering them pretty well without kind of making them very long-winded. I'm very worried I'm talking too much, but that's also why we're here. So, anyway, so Temple 277. What is the backstory behind the beard? Now that's like, I wish I could say it was like this big, dramatic, incredible story, right? But honestly, I had spent so many years prior, not only just for my jobs beforehand, but just in general, it was just always a reflex or required to shave. And so I never had anything. And so in, what is it, almost close to about a decade ago is when I seriously started kind of growing it out, and I would keep it short for a little bit, right? I keep it very length restricted because I like not shaving, and I felt like I looked not as, you know, I felt I didn't look as bad with the beard, even if it was small. And so eventually, I think at some point, I ended up getting really into. It's kind of funny, but maybe it's a little too on the nose. But I got really into the show Vikings, and then, you know, there's also like I was really into Lord of the Rings still, and, you know, really getting into all of those really heavily. And then a lot of the advertisements for the new God of War were coming out, And so overall I was like, damn, that's really cool. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Right? I'm gonna go like a Gandalf beard. We'll just go in, it'll be cool, it'll be funny. Kinda did it as sort of like a sarcastic joke to myself. Like, you know what, let's go all in and see how far we can get, you know, like 4 feet. Something crazy. And then the longer it got that I was like, you know, I like this, it's comfortable. It's nice. And then I just got to this length, and every job that I worked at, everywhere I went, it stuck out, and it in a good way, and it was cool. It was cool. I felt neat, and I was pretty proud of it. And to this day, right, I've maintained like obviously like I've trimmed it and contained it, because I feel like if I didn't, it would be like crazy long and probably like crazy, some real wild shit that none of us are prepared for. But yeah, so it's kind of like a humble beginning for the beard, and now it's become such a staple that I can't even imagine without it at this point. Right? So do you have you ever read many comics or books? So, so for comics and books, so some of the books I've read obviously are the Lord of the Rings. I read Princess Bride. I read the World of Warcraft novels. Uh, Probably the best one that I would say, hands down, is Arthas. Even if you're not a Warcraft fan, it's a great story. It's a great story. It's incredible. Right? Very much path to hell paved with good intentions, and the fallen hero story. It's great. It's really good. Comic wise, I didn't actually read a lot of comics growing up, or really most of my life, mostly because, well, one, we didn't have a lot of comic stores around where I lived growing up, but also I had no concept of like, how do you start comics? Like, what do you do? There's because I think like at one point, one of my friends, one of my friends' little brothers, right? He was he was like elementary, middle school, right? And obsessed with Batman. And I say obsessed in the most respectful way. This like I don't think I've ever met somebody that knew as much about Batman as this kid did. It's crazy. Like, I'm talking Detective Comics, like early days, all the way to what I think about the time was when, what was it, The Dark Knight had come out, right? And he told me so much about Batman. I learned so much about Batman from him just because he was such a big fan. He would just constantly talk about that and Kiss, the band Kiss, two of his favorite things in the entire world. And point of this being, there were so many comics about Batman, and then I realized there's so many comics about everything. There's so many different stories in different like timelines or points, and I was just like, I don't even know where to start. Like, if I wanted to get into like Thor or Captain America, I don't even know where to start. Right? So eventually, I got the Marvel Unlimited comic app, and I paid for that, and it had just like a massive library of comics. So I was just like, I'll just pick one, right? And at the time that I got it, it was around the time Infinity War was coming out, and so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I'll read Marvel's Infinity War, the comics, before I see the movie, just for kicks, right? Because I know it's going to be different, but I just want to read it because I think it'd be neat. And that shit was so good. That the original Infinity War comics, crazy story, absolutely incredible. I didn't know half of what was really going on, but I knew the concept and the weight of everything, and I thought it was awesome. And then it cascaded me into other things. Like, I started looking into Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Captain America. I was looking into the Thor comics. Right, I was just kind of absorbing everything. And obviously, I read a lot of manga too. A lot of manga being, like, obviously One Piece, and also read about, at the time, it wasn't over. Like, at the time, Attack on Titan wasn't over yet, but I read the manga for Attack on Titan. Mostly because I remember that was kind of another big title at the time. Because I had watched all of Naruto. I had read and caught up with One Piece, both in the manga and in the anime. And that I read Attack on Titan, and I was also caught up on Bleach completely as well. Huge fans of all these things. And so I hope that answers the question, right? Both comics, but then manga, but then also books. Also, a lot of the books I read, aside from D&D books, right, are also kind of like these books, which are, really heavy novels on how to, interpret certain scenarios in D&D, how to handle D&D better. I read a lot of like role-playing books, and I feel like it's a really good read anyway, just because I think it's really interesting to get new perspectives. Right, so I hope that answers the question. Were you ever into collecting Funko Pops, action figures, or statues? Yes, I was. I am. As a kid, no. We had no money. I had no money. It was very tight all the time, up until maybe high school. And then for a brief time in high school, things were okay. And then after that, it went bad. But either way, I didn't have the money. I didn't have the means. Right? I didn't get a job. I didn't get my first job till I was like 16. And so I was at a Wendy's. And so I didn't really have a lot of money. Right? Even working the job, I still had to pay rent. So basically my entire paycheck as a part-timer at $7.25 an hour. Not even, sorry. $7.25 was my raise after a year. $7.15 was what I was getting paid. That was what I was getting paid. I'm pretty sure it was $7.15 or it was $7.20. But I remember I eventually got a raise. Might be, it's pretty close to that. Right? It's been a long time. But so I worked that, so I never really got to, right? But I always think about it. And then, after high school, I'd think like, oh man, these Devil May Cry statues would be really cool. Like Bleach statues looked awesome, right? I tried to collect swords at the time. I had Tetsaiga from Inuyasha. I had a physical, like the actual sword. I had one. My friend broke it. Because he held it in a way that I said not to. I don't hold it against him. All right. I should have spoken up quicker. But it was very fragile. It was very poorly made. As far as like, it's a show sword, not a handle sword. You don't handle it. You look at it. Right. And so he picked it up. He kind of turned it in a weird way, and the weight of the blade snapped right at the guard. And it was tragic. That was unfortunate. But I had that. We also had a bunch of katanas. And I say we, being me, I had a handful of. And my best friend Jack, who I talked about earlier, he also had a bunch of swords. And so we would collect swords too. We often spent a lot of time outside swinging them at each other. Absolutely breaking them to pieces. Absolutely beating the shit out of them. That was one of our favorite pastimes. And I miss it every day. You're like, what do you mean? We would go swinging like full force sword fighting. Like, so crazy. Only got injured a few times. Right? Got a couple scars. Almost lost my finger on one of them. Wild. But yeah, so those and statues and stuff eventually, once I became a full-fledged adult and I had disposable income, even though not much, I started to slowly buy neat little things, whether they were keychains or, stickers, and then that evolved up to, little tiny figurines, and then eventually to these really, really neat figures. And then I even got some big ones, which in the back there is Marco the Phoenix. It's probably my biggest one. It's like physically large. It's larger than it looks. It's far away, but it's pretty big and it's very detailed. I'm a big fan of that one. I also have the Going Merry and another Zoro statue over here. I have an entire container full of Funko Pops for One Piece. Basically, at this point, and it's been the case, Anything One Piece, I will buy it. It's so maybe it's unhealthy, but I embrace it just because I love it. I think it's so neat, and I don't know why I'm determined to have a collectible, every collectible for One Piece at one day, so that I too will have the One Piece. Right. So, next question. Top 10 favorite video games of all time. You can reduce it to 5 if you don't want to make the video too long. Oh, buddy. The videos being too long, I feel like at this point is it's a goddamn staple of the channel. I cannot make a video that's not too long. It's impossible. I've tried. The science isn't there. It doesn't exist. Okay? But I will let you guys know my top 10. All right? And this will be in, and I wrote these down. I wrote these down because I wanted to emphasize kind of the order, but don't take it too seriously. But this is more or less the order. So, top 10 games: Tales of Symphonia, GameCube, specifically the GameCube version. I know it got remastered for the Switch. It is not as good. It's a subpar version. It just is. It doesn't run as smooth. It runs at half the frame rate it did on the GameCube for no reason. And they among other things, what are the battle animations? So it's kind of like the old school RPG where you walk around the map and you contact an enemy that is a battle transition, which is like this cool freeze frame, and then it shatters the screen like glass, right? And the shards actually have the imagery, you know, and it's just like this cool animation, and it doesn't exist anymore. They got rid of it on the remaster, and I don't know why. So the remaster I feel like is subpar. The PC version on Steam is also not as good. Same situation, pretty much. And then they did a re-release on the PS3, which was also not as good. Basically, the GameCube version is superior, and it will always be. And I don't know why we don't have the technology to replicate it. I don't. But I love that version, and I'll die on that hill. Number 2, Metroid Prime 1. Metroid Prime 1. Absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. So real quick story time with Metroid Prime 1. So I got it from a friend. He offered it to me out of nowhere. He was kind of like, "Hey, do you want this game? I can't get past the first level, and I'm not really into it." And I said, "Okay." I didn't even know what it was. I just saw the disc. It had the morph ball on it, and I was like, "Neat. What is this?" And he's like, "It's called Metroid Prime." And I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but cool. Yeah, thanks, man." And he's like, "Yeah, I couldn't get past that over this annoying timer, and we couldn't get past it." And I'm like, "Do you mind if I try?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Like, it's your game now anyway." So I put it in, and we played it, and I got past the intro and that timer, and we made it down to Talon 4. And you know, when you first come out of the ship and it's all rainy, like in the rainforest vibe, he was blown away. He was like, "Holy shit, wait, what? Whoa, wait a minute." And he started to kind of regret, it seemed, giving me the game for free or at all. But I was like, he was like, "Ah, it's yours, it's fine." I did it. And I played that game so hard. There was no internet really at the time, right? We had dial-up. This was like, you couldn't pick up the phone. You couldn't pick up the house phone without cutting out the internet. Okay, this was like the early stage, so there weren't, you know, ways for me to reasonably look up how to beat the game, how to play the game, stuff like that, as well as I didn't have any money. We didn't have money for game guides. So I was playing Metroid Prime 1, Tales of Symphonia, all these games, like, raw. So going through Metroid Prime, trying to find everything and figure it out was awesome. And it hands down, it's one of my favorite games of all time that I will play at any point, at any time, for any reason. Okay? And that's why this list, I want to emphasize, this list is a list of games that I will play for any reason, at any time. This is not to say like other games are worse, but these are like my go-to favorite, like, play anytime for any reason games. And so, Tales of Symphonia, Metroid Prime 1, Zelda Ocarina of Time. Die on to the end of my days. I will love this game. It may be simple, you know, in retrospect, but man, it felt cool. The elemental temples, the two different worlds, like the young Link, older Link. You know, the fact that you had so much to do. The story was good. The boss fights were rad. You know, it's a cool game. What else do I have to say? It's Ocarina of Time. It's awesome. So good, right? And then I also briefly played Master Quest. I never finished Master Quest, which rearranges everything in the game, dungeon-wise. But one day I hope to finish that one. I think that'd be cool. Pokemon Crystal version. That's the next one. I love Red. Pokemon Red. It's my first one. Will always be. But Pokemon Crystal was like the penultimate Pokemon game. And I think to this day, I'll stand on that. I'll stand on that. Okay? Pokemon Crystal is my favorite Pokemon game ever. And they have yet to make a Pokemon game that rekindles that exact same excitement, feeling, and just interest in Pokemon. The fact that you had 2 whole open worlds to go through. You had a collective 16 gym badges. You had so much to do, and the story was, you could say, like, the story wasn't super deep, and it wasn't really. Your rival was an asshole, so it gave, like, kind of his growth purpose, you know, from him being like this sort of, you know, not respecting Pokemon, kind of being like a heartless guy, to, you know, we beat him so often that he's like, I don't understand why I'm losing. Like, how is it you're so good? And he's like, maybe I'm the asshole. Maybe it's because I'm treating my Pokemon like shit. And they're not performing right because they're not being treated well. And it's sort of like this revelation. I thought it was so cool. It was so cool. Even as a kid, I'm like, that's great. That's so neat. Right? And the starters, right? Chikorita, Cyndaquil, Totodile. Awesome. Love all 3. Beat the game with all 3 multiple times each, just for fun. And my favorite, Cyndaquil. It is. It is. Even, yeah, collectively, Cyndaquil, number 1. Love him. So, Pokemon Crystal. And again, Soul Silver came out. Soul Silver, Heart Gold. I got Soul Silver the day it came out. I was super excited. And I'd say that and Crystal, it's just like, man, what a time. What a time. I would love to have both of those games again. Next, after Pokemon Crystal, we got Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1. My favorite Mass Effect. Hands down. Hands down. 100%. I will die on this hill. Okay? That doesn't mean 2 and 3 are bad. Okay? So don't take it like that. I just love 1. The story was great. The sort of like the dark mystery of the galaxy and this sort of like subplot that was going on, and you were essentially hunting down a rogue agent, you know, and you're working with all these different people and different individuals that have different viewpoints in politics, and they have different views on humanity, and just sort of like the history with everybody and the discovery of just the galaxy, and then the past with these individuals, but then the history of the galaxy and all these other things. And it was so good. It was so good. And the skill tree, you know, how you could really do a lot of different approaches for, you know, how you do your character, and then how you know, set up the rest of the team, and who kind of prioritizes on what. And I thought it was awesome. And the story, hands down, the best story in the trilogy. Okay? And I will die on that hill. Okay? Mass Effect 1 had the best story. Mass Effect 3 had the best gameplay. Mass Effect 2 had the best companions. And if I could smash them all together, that's exactly what I would do. I would have the story and the plot and the world building of Mass Effect 1 with all of the companions and the development of Mass Effect 2 with the companions, but the gameplay of 3. And I think that would be like the perfect Mass Effect game. I think it would just be God tier. It'd be good. But that's me. Okay, after Mass Effect 1, to no surprise, Expedition 33. It has easily become one of my favorite games of all time. It is eagerly awaiting a second playthrough. You know, in my own time, or on the channel, who knows, we'll see. but it's so good. It's so good, and it's just so fun, and the story and the music and everything. And I know it's like so talked about, overly talked about now, so I don't want it to sound like, beating a dead horse, but it really is. I fell in love with Expedition 33, and so it is easily on my list. Top games. Next one, Resident Evil 4, the original. And the version, I played 3 versions of this game. I played the PS2, the GameCube, and the Wii version. Right? I played the PS2 for the first time, my first ever time playing Resident Evil in general, and it was on the PS2 that I borrowed from a friend over the summer while he was at a family's house and he couldn't play games. So I was like, let me borrow that thing. Scared the shit out of me. Resident Evil 4 got me fucked up, man. At the time, I'd never been freaked out by a game. I never played a horror game before, or even like a slightly scary game. So this was it. And so like the Ganados and the Plagas and just the whole world and the lighting freaked me out. And it was the best. It was the best. And I beat that game so many times. And then I got it on GameCube on my own. Then later I got the Wii version. Right? I got the Wii version of the game. And I even have the Wii version over here because I totally want to do a playthrough of the original at some point. Because we Resident Evil fans that like Resident Evil 4, the original, they know why we like it. It's kind of campy, it's kind of goofy, and it's fun. It's awesome. And the Wii version is so good. If you haven't played it, it is, I think, the most fun version. Right? It may not be the PS2 version with the steelbook case, but it is the Wii version with motion controls, and you feel like fucking John Wick. You feel so fucking cool because you actually point and shoot, and there's a reticle, and it's very accurate. And so you go through that game, it's like it feels so badass. You feel so cool, and then you like swipe the remote to actually use the knife. So like combat feels crazy. And it's so good. It's so good. So Resident Evil 4. Next game, Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation, easily, obviously, we beat it on Nightmare mode first try, but I became so immersed, so in love with that game. Easily one of my top games of all time, because it's so fun. It's so well made. The horror is real. Right? The strategy is real. It puts it in your hands and it says good luck. It says get from here to here. Doesn't matter how you do it. Just don't die. It's great. So easily. Next game, Super Mario Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy. I love Sunshine, and I'll play Sunshine to death all the time. But, man, Galaxy is peak. The first Galaxy. I like the hub. I like the traditional hub vibe versus Super Mario Galaxy 2, which I never played, but I know they change it to like that traditional Mario map mode versus the hub. I like the hub. Just, it brings me back to Mario Sunshine and 64. And I just like the vibe of the space station and run around to the different areas. Even though it takes time to do it, it's time consuming. I just thought it was more fun. And the levels are really cool. And so yeah, Mario Galaxy. And last one, Sonic Heroes. Probably, and I'll stand on it, my favorite Sonic game. Favorite Sonic game. Okay, Sonic Adventure DX is special. It is special. But Sonic Heroes is easily in the top games because the voice acting is just, it's fun. It's fun. You get the team, the multiple teams of all the characters in Sonic that you do, and they have different missions and different focuses, and then finishing all of them, you get like a secret group, a secret thing, and it's rad. It's cool. I never figured out what it is, but I know it exists. I know it exists, and one day I'll see it. But Sonic Heroes, absolutely my favorite Sonic game, hands down. Okay, so that is my top games. Those are my top 10 games. So yeah, hopefully some of them are relatable. If not, let me know your top 10 games. Put them in the comments. I want to know all 10. All 10. Don't skimp out. Okay? None of this 5, 6, 7 nonsense. I want all 10. What all 10? Right? Uh, let's see. So on a live stream, you said you were in the military. What's the backstory for that? Okay, so real brief, not to go into like a whole tangent on this one. So military, uh, kind of unfortunately, it was like an unfortunate, it's like weird, unfortunate point in my life where a lot of things were out of my control, and things were not going very great, and in an attempt to kind of regain my own, autonomy in everything, um, I ended up joining the Navy. I ended up joining the United States Navy. Right, and it was easily one of the best choices that I ever made, because not only did it take me out of a really bad situation that I realistically could not have fixed on my own, but it gave me a lot of experience in life and skills, not just in physical skills working, but also in social skills, working with a ton of different people in various age groups and different authority levels, but also doing a lot of things that you wouldn't really do in a normal job, and a lot of things that were kind of scary. Like, I'm gonna be real, there were a lot of times where there was a lot of heights going on, and that just still fucks me up today. It does. Like, there are games that we've played where heights hit me, and they do hit me. Like, if you think I'm playing it up, I'm not. Like genuinely, man. If I could like gauge how heights feel, fucks me up. Same with underwater. Anything. If I look down in water and I can't see the bottom, that's a fucking nope. That's a hell no. Which is ironic because I was in the Navy, right? But that essentially helped me kind of reset everything and kind of put things back into my own lane. And then when I got out, that's when I kind of started to kind of figure everything out again, and which again explains why, or it might explain why there's such a gap in my video game experience, movie experience, and everything. Because when I went in, like, let's be real, I think like YouTube wasn't even super big yet, right? YouTube was still kind of like, okay. And after that, like, I missed a ton of games. I missed a ton of game releases. And so, and it's funny because we talked about this on the stream, right? As Temple mentioned, for the Gamescom stream that's on the channel. It felt, when I got out, it felt like Captain America getting thawed out of the ice. All those years later, and it's me going around, with my little notebook, and people are like, "Oh, did you hear about this game?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's this," and I'm like writing it down. I'm like, "Oh, I'll check it out." And it's like, "Oh, did you hear about this band?" Nope, no idea. Who is this? Write it down. So it's like, it is a genuine thing whenever it's like, "Oh, you've never heard of this game, you've never played this game, if you've never seen this movie or whatever this is." Yeah, it is, because you don't really have internet or any real access to any of that stuff. Or you do on a technical thing, but you don't have the time. The internet's not that great. Like, Facebook is your basically go-to, and outside of that, you just don't really have time to do a lot of stuff. So this is the channel's also let me catch up on a lot of games that I just never really got around to. So it's been cool. So I hope that answers kind of roughly the question about it. Hopefully it's like a satisfying answer, if that helps. Right, and lastly, top 3 favorite movies you ever watched. Oh, good one. I'll do you one better. I'll list you a number of movies that are some of my top favorites. Okay? And again, I want to emphasize, there are a lot of movies. We'd be here for a while listing all the movies that I really are super into. But I'd say some of my favorite, most rewatchable, or most like impactful, or yeah, I'd say that, are as follows: School of Rock with Jack Black. And I know, hold on, okay? I know right now it's popular to not like Jack Black. Get it. At the time, I discovered that movie because I was learning how to play guitar. I was learning how to play guitar because I got into, me and my best friend Jack, third reference. We got into Guitar Hero 2. Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero 3, super into it. And then that transitioned us into trying to learn real guitar. And so in the way of learning real guitar, I was looking up movies like, okay, well, what movies are about, like, musicians, rock stars, stuff like that. Just like the vibe of a guitarist or a band. And so there's like The Drummer, which I'm a huge fan of. Love that movie. And then School of Rock, I discovered. And to this day, I still think is incredibly whimsical. And I know that movie line for line. It's so good. And I still find it a lot of fun. Okay. So that's a big one for me. Ace Ventura 2. but I'll be real. Basically anything with Jim Carrey. I'll be real. The Jack Black and School of Rock. And Jim Carrey around the time for like Ace Ventura 2. And The Mask. As well as like Liar Liar. Like that energy, the jokiness he had, those guys like formed my sense of humor and the things that I find like silly and funny. And so Jim Carrey's I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan. I am. So this is a pretty big deal, right? Another movie, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, right? You'd say, oh, what are your top 3 favorite movies? Well, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King, right? Easy answer. But we need a better answer. A more thoughtful answer than that, even though I stand by that. Two Towers, I think, is the most fun, for me, out of the trilogy. I love the campy adventuriness of the first movie, right? I love the epic, climax to the trilogy of Return of the King, right? There's so many things, like Pelennor Fields, but then also like the feeling of building up the army for that among Aragorn and his entire journey in that movie, let alone Frodo and Sam, their whole falling out, and then also like him coming back and saving Frodo, like that whole thing, beautiful. But The Two Towers is just like fucking great. Everything with Rohan is awesome. This is what I mean. Like, we be here forever. Right, the Gandalf the White, and then saving Theoden from Saruman, and then the horse rider Nordic feeling of Rohan itself, but then also Eomer being such a fucking badass, and everything with that movie, then also culminating in the absolute fucking cinematic battle of Helm's Deep that I could watch any and every day forever, right? So good, so genuinely good. And so Two Towers is my favorite out of the trilogy, but I can love them all, so don't think I don't. Huge. All right, next one, Jet Li's Fearless. Jet Li's Fearless was a movie that I had discovered through Jack as well. He showed me actually a couple of these movies, and so a couple of these movies that we're going to talk about, this being one of them, I love it. It's loosely based on a true story, on a true person, and there's a lot of embellishment, but the idea is that it's a great film that tells a really great story, and I love it. It is probably Jet Li's best movie. It is easily his best movie because it's both there's a mix of like whimsy but also very serious things, but also like there's a lot of passion, and there's like a lot of epic moments, and it's just the writing's really got me, right? And so this was also a period in time where I was not only into guitar, but I was also into fantasy with Lord of the Rings, And I was so into martial arts movies. So Jet Li's Fearless was a top. Jackie Chan, Drunken Master, I think is easily one of my favorite martial arts movies of all time. That movie is so good. And I initially watched it. I watched it however I put the DVD in and it just started playing. It ended up playing the dub. So I never actually heard it in the original language. But the dub was so good. I only ever heard it like that for so long. But it was great. It was great. I fucking love Drunken Master. If you haven't seen any of these movies, I swear they're so good. And you love martial arts movies. Jet Li's Fearless, Drunken Master. God tier movies. Next one is very niche. I've actually not heard a lot of people know about it. Is The Iron Monkey. The Iron Monkey. That I'd probably say is my number 2 favorite martial arts movie below Drunken Master. Right? It's got Donnie Yen in it. It's got Donnie Yen, and he plays alongside a character that is essentially kind of like a Robin Hood-esque character, and it's that kind of a story, right? It's very cool. It's essentially a actually no, I don't want to spoil it. I don't because I would talk about it, but some of the points of talking about it basically reveals some of the things. It's really interesting. If you haven't seen it, try to find it. Try to find it and watch it, because it's really good. I love that movie. Right. Now, after The Iron Monkey, Alien 1, the first Alien movie. First Alien movie. So, first Alien movie, I had not seen Alien for the longest time. When we played Alien Isolation, I had just seen Alien not that long before. So it was perfect timing, and I kind of tried to plan it that way. Like, oh, well, I should at least watch the first Alien movie before playing Isolation. Just in case. Because I'll be real. My first Alien movie? Technically? Okay, we're gonna get technical. I'll also be trying to quick about this. If we're gonna get technical about it, my first Alien movie was Alien vs. Predator. I saw it on TV, on antenna TV, very staticky, late at night. It came on, and I watched it. It scared the shit out of me because I was a kid. Like, we're talking. I say kid, but we're talking like maybe like 9th grade. But again, I didn't watch a lot of horror stuff. I didn't watch any scary things. So whenever they were, they got me. Like, I even watched Friday the 13th and Halloween that came on TV. It scared the shit out of me too. But anyway, so Alien vs. Predator, super cool to me at the time. I was like, yo, fuck yeah. This is badass. I don't know who this Predator guy is, but he's fucking sick. He's got the fucking claw. He's got the shoulder turret. Like, this dude's a beast. And then the alien queen being there. And the aliens in general. I don't know. I just thought it was a rad movie. And that I learned apparently not a lot of Alien fans like that movie. I don't know why. But I think mainly because, maybe because it focuses too much on the Predator. Or, I don't know. That doesn't matter. That was my first one. Second Alien movie I ever watched was, I believe it or not, it was Covenant. It was Covenant. Right? And it was because my friends were gonna go see it. And they were like, do you want to go see this movie? And I was like, yeah, sure, totally. What are we watching? It's like Alien Covenant. I'm like, oh, fuck, it's a scary movie. Shit. I was like, okay, that's fine. I can handle it. I could not. But, and I know you're like, oh, it wasn't even that long ago. I know. Before we played Isolation, I was scared of everything. And then I became hardened with my conquering. But I just want to say, we went to see Covenant. Again, didn't see Prometheus first, so I'm going into this with absolutely no information. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. This is a wild movie. Holy shit. This is wild. It's like, yo, David's an asshole. Why is he such a dick? It's like, oh, he's an android. I'm like, that doesn't answer the question. Why is he such a dick? Right, because I didn't know anything about Weyland-Yutani. I didn't understand any of this going into Covenant. So it's like funny to almost watch it backwards. because we watched that, and then after watching Covenant twice, I ended up watching Prometheus because my friends were like, oh, well, you gotta see Prometheus now. And I thought Prometheus was actually really good. It was a slow burn, but it was good. It was a cool movie. Uh, then eventually we went back and watched Alien 1 and Alien 2, which is Aliens. Right? And I was like, man, Alien is so fucking cool. Alien's so rad. It's also kind of a slow burn, but it's about it's the tension building that it does really well, that I thought was awesome. And Aliens was very actiony, very cool follow-up, but I still think Alien is my number one. So that's where I'm at. After that, all right, we'll go a little bit quicker. I'm trying to go quick. I don't want to take up like all your guys' time. This is already going to probably be really long. So I'm sorry. There's just a lot of questions. I want to make sure that I'll answer them all properly. Right? Dragon Ball Super Broly. Dragon Ball Super Broly, hands down my favorite Dragon Ball movie, and I've seen them all. And I love Super Broly. Battle of Gods was cool. Battle of Gods was rad. Right? But man, Broly is one of my favorite Dragon Ball characters in general. He's so fucking cool. The original movie came out with him. I was like, he's unhinged, he's crazy. He's like absurdly powerful for no fucking reason. And I was like, that's great. That's exactly what I want out of this game, out of this franchise. You know, so when Super Broly came out and it was teased before we knew who it was, I'm like that green, because they showed like a teaser, right? And it was like the guy on the mountaintop and it had like the green key. I was like, that's gotta be fucking, but nobody else has green. And I'm like, I swear to God, he would not do another Saiyan with green even after the tournament. They did, where they did acknowledge the fact that an alternate universe type Broly exists, right? With Kale. Now, when they revealed it was Broly, I was like, yo, fuck yeah, let's go. And then watching the movie and the entire like second half of the film being a fight non-stop, the entire second half pretty much, I've never been just so hyped. And it was, to me, exactly what I wanted out of a Dragon Ball movie, right? A decent setup and then action. You know, it doesn't have to have a deep story. It doesn't have to have anything like super crazy. I love that they gave him better development this time. Actual development versus, you know, just being mad at Goku for crying. But no, honestly, Super Broly, I've seen that movie dozens of times. Just, I love it so much. And to follow that, One Piece Stampede. That movie. Now, if you're not a One Piece fan, I'm sure you could probably enjoy the movie, but I feel like it is, and it sounds so pretentious, but I mean this in a very kind way. It is a movie for the One Piece fans, because there is so much like fan service, not that kind of fan service, right? But there's so much fan service in this entire movie. It is like a love letter to the franchise, and the amount of like subtle references, hints, little things that they just throw in. They don't even have to do a lot of development on, but you see it. And the fans that know things, they see all these little things. And it's just so cool. And it just feels nice and neat. It's just really cool. And I love it. I have 2 copies of this movie. Right? I guess technically 3, right? I have a digital copy, I have a regular copy, and then I have a steelbook version that they ended up coming out with later, which I wasn't really great. I would have bought that one first, but yeah, now I have 3 copies of that movie. But I regret nothing. Fucking love that movie. After that, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I don't. Would it have been? Would it have been really a surprise with how into Dungeons and Dragons I really am? Probably not. I didn't get to watch it in theaters. I didn't. Right? I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't really have any. And everybody that I knew had already gone to see it, and they didn't want to go see it again. So I was on my own. So I ended up buying the movie and watched it at home in my apartment by myself, and I had a blast. I fucking love that movie. It's whimsical, it's fun, it gives the vibe and the feel of D&D. You know, it breaks my heart that we might not get another one, but if it's the only one we get, I feel like it was a great one. The meta humor of everything, the characters and the dynamic, it was just perfect. It was so good. I love that movie. I've seen it probably at least like 15 times since I got it. And this last one will be a little niche. Because I'm not even, honestly, I'm gonna be surprised if any of you actually know about it. But it's Mythica, A Quest for Heroes. It's this niche. I think it's very niche. It's niche, right? It's a niche movie saga about. It's a fantasy movie saga, right? The first one is Mythica Quest for Heroes, and it revolves around this girl who ends up having necromantic powers, which are incredibly powerful, dangerous, and rare. And utilizing that, but there's also like the overarching villains that are in there. And the first movie is a lot about putting together that party, gathering your party and venturing forth. It's that feeling, and it's really neat. It's fun. It's not a very high budget movie, but it is high fun. It is high and fun. It's so cool, and I'm a huge fan. I have 4 of the 5 movies. Technically 6 now. They came out with a 6th one that I have not gotten yet. But yeah, so it's those, and you know what? Actually, can I? Right here. Mythica, A Quest for Heroes, with Kevin Sorbo. Very cool. Right, and then they stuck together because I love them. Believe it or not, Matt Mercer is also in these. Yeah. He remembers. He knows. I'll put that away. Later. It's fine. So, anyway, there are 6 movies total. I have 4 of them. I need to get the other ones. But anyway, I find them very fun and charming and just simply good movies. So, hopefully that answers those top films. I know you asked for 3. I did more. And then was it Temple 277? Glad you're doing this Q&A. Want to know you're currently one of my favorite YouTubers. Congrats for 5K subs. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thanks, man. That's very I appreciate it. I'm glad you feel that way. I'm glad that I could be that, Oh. Next. Solid 6116. Right? What countries have you visited or do you plan to visit? Greetings from Germany. Yo. Greetings from the United States. What is it? I'm sorry. Oh god. I know it's hello, but then also Guten Tag. Right? Close. So, okay. Countries that I visited or plan to visit. All right. So, countries that I have visited are no, we'll do this backwards. We'll do this the other way. Countries I want to visit. Right? It's probably not going to happen soon because, unfortunately, money. But if everything was to go my way, right? So, top ones: Sweden, Norway, Scotland, Denmark, right? Ireland, Germany. I would then also want to go to Wales. And then 3 places in Japan that I would really like to visit would be Osaka, Kyoto, and Himeji, as well as New Zealand and France. Right? Those are like off the top of my head. Those are like the ones that I think, this would be really cool to go to and see and check out. I think it'd be awesome. Obviously there's a big wide world out there, but those are just off the top of my head. So if it's not your country, I swear to God, I don't mean any offense. Right. Places I have been, as I have been, I've been to the Philippines. I've been to Singapore. I've been to um, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. I've been through. I guess does I've been outside of Egypt. The Suez Canal. That was exciting. Right, so I've been like near Egypt. I've seen it. I've seen the big sign that says, Egypt. Saw that. Uh, as well as Djibouti, Africa. Djibouti, Africa. But that's an interesting story, right? So it's such a random place, and I agree. I by ending up there was not predicted, but we ended up going. I ended up having to go there. But that's a story for another time, because otherwise we'll be here for a little bit longer. Right, but we'll talk about it one day. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. Have a wild ride. But yeah, dude, solid or solid. Thanks for the question. Right, next one, Thomas Sendin. Oh god, I'm so sorry. Sensendiver. I hope to God I pronounced that right. Right? Everyone asks what is or who is, so I will ask how is. Grizz, hope you're doing good, bud. Oh god. Yeah, trying to get me all emotional with this shit. Thanks, man. Doing great, man. Doing well. Doing well. All in the up and up. Hope you're doing well. I appreciate it. I do. Thanks, man. Then Albert 12D4R. I2D4R. Sorry. Very simple question. The TV shows and anime list I gave you. Have you already watched most / all of them already? Yes or no? If yes, then you cannot react to them because reactions need to be authentic. So which is it? I was like, I don't know. You probably didn't, but it definitely felt a little intense. Not, like whoa. You probably didn't mean it that way. But it's just like, very simple question. The TV shows and anime list I gave you. Have you watched most / all of them already? Your family's life depends on it. TikTok. Yes or no? If yes, then you cannot react because reactions need to be authentic. So which is it? You have 30 minutes. Sorry, I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing. Sorry. No, I do have the list. I would say, because I did technically read the manga for Attack on Titan. Does that count? Because I know you had suggested the anime, right? But I have read the manga. I just haven't seen it animated. That, if that counts as not being authentic, great. But no, I'd say it. These are definitely something I want to do. It's just a lot of care that has to go into it, right? It sounds like, okay, it could be easy, right? Just do it and put it up. But I know, just knowing how sensitive and chaotic the YouTube system is, I feel like it's a lot harder to do, and I'm trying to, because you only get one shot to do it once. You only get one shot to see something for the first time. And so it's a lot of it. I try to be really careful about how to do it, right? Because a lot of the ones that are out there that get away with it, they do it in a very specific way, and a lot of it can get like awkward, especially with, you can't show something on the screen for too long, because if you show it for the screen too long, it gets claimed, it gets caught, it gets right, and I don't want to risk any strikes on the channel, regardless if it's like, oh, it might just get claimed, not striked. Do I want to risk that? No. Right? But at the same time, even if I don't get struck, the idea is like, okay, well, how do I have to edit this? Do I have to have it like be this super tiny screen in the corner that's transparent? and the full screen is like me. And then at that point, is that really good to watch? Is that really entertaining or interesting? Or am I gonna have to do like wild cutbacks for like show the show for 2 seconds and then me, and then the show for 2 seconds and then me, and I just like this jarring cutback. Because I've seen other channels and how they have to do it, and I don't know if that would be fun to do on YouTube. Now, again, if we did something like not that I have one, but like if I did like a Patreon, right? If I set up like a Patreon and I could post the videos separately on there, right? That way there's no actual like claim system we have to worry about. That might actually work a lot better to get around that kind of stuff. Or the other way would just be to do it live on like a live stream, like we do like a hangout and we like watch shows or watch shows, anime or movies. It's sort of like a live reaction, and then if it gets like claimed on the VOD, then it is what it is, and I can delete it. But we've all seen it. I don't know. There are options, but trust me, it's like it's just something I'm trying to be very careful about, because I know it's chaotic territory with how the claim systems work, and copyright. So I hope that helps, because trust me, like it's not like I'm not thinking about it or avoiding it. Okay, it's a delicate approach, and I can't just do it. That'd be irresponsible. But yeah, no, for real. Thanks for bringing it up again. And then Suspense 992. What is your favorite moment or moments playing Dungeons and Dragons? What a beautiful question. Okay. All right. How do I do this without taking this into like a 30-minute discussion? Okay, cool. One of the coolest and to me honestly very unexpected situations in D&D. So I was running a game for 4 friends, right? They consisted of, at the time, it was a very mishmash party. One of them was a monk, right? There was a monk, a sorcerer, and then there was technically a barbarian, goblin barbarian, half-elf sorcerer, half-elf monk, and a goblin warlock. Right? What a dynamic. Now, 3 of them, not the sorcerer, the other 3 were on the verge of like edgy and silly. Right? Whereas the sorcerer, he was very he was like a young adult. He was like a young adult without any real like seriously crazy, extremes in his personality. And so with this instance, right? Okay, so that's the party dynamic. You got those 4, right? You're in a town. In the center of town, there's a tower, a large, basically a bastion, sort of a garrison, if you will. At the top of the tower, the 4 party members split up, separate, surrounded, the town burning around them, right? Smoke filling the air. 4 ballistas on top of here, 2 of them empty, the other 2 on their last shots, and they have been fighting on here against a dragon, a young blue dragon. So the top exposed areas of the tower scorched with black marks from the lightning strikes from the blue dragon as it flew around them, and it having a number of scars and bleeding and holes in its wings from the party attacking it and trying to take it down, both with the ballistas, right, as well as their own abilities. But in this moment, dragon's worn down, is hurting, it's having a bad time. The party sweating, they're running out of stuff to do. You know, they've already blown through the last 2 ballistas now, and the last one missed. So the dragon is, at this point, only going to be taken down by the party, 3 of which are melee range characters, except for the Warlock and his Eldritch Blast. And so, in this moment, right, the entire fate of the town is weighing on the shoulders of the team. Right, this dragon and the followers of said dragon were burning, pillaging, and raiding, and the dragon very much being an antagonizing force to assist with the pillaging. In this moment, the dragon, in an attempt of self-preservation, flies away from the party, goes to leave town to, hopefully, maybe, find them again one day once it's recovered, for a second chance at taking them out. But the party didn't want to let that happen. Specifically, the sorcerer, Altorin. The wild magic sorcerer, Altorin. So he goes, and he asks me, the DM, he says, "The dragon's flying away, right?" And I said, "Yes, it's flying away. It's quite a distance right now." He's like, "Okay, I want to hit it. I want to shoot. I want to cast a spell at it one more time to try to take it down." And I was like, "Well, it's probably like 100 feet away by now." Okay. And he's like, "That's fine. Firebolt can make that hit." And I was like, "Damn, he's right. He's right, it is. Shit." And so I was like, "Okay." But based on the range, right, as well as the fact there's a lot of smoke in the air, there's a lot of fire, and it's very far away, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to make that hit. You know, it is possible, but you're going to have to try really hard to make that hit. And he said, "That's fine. I'll take the risk." So what does he do? He has to cast Firebolt. And I told him, and I was like, "Okay, based on the circumstances." All right, because again, part of me as the DM really wanted this dragon to potentially return later as sort of a revenge opportunity for the party, but also a revenge opportunity for the dragon. I thought like a reoccurring thing would be really neat. However, so I told him, I was like, "Okay, you gotta roll at least a 20 to be able to hit this, right?" Based legitimately on the fact that he can't really see very well and the dragon is very far away. I was like, "Go for it." He rolls a natural 20 immediately on that roll, and that was it. It was insanely unpredictable. I had no way in any capacity believed it would have happened. And I say a natural 20, like no modifiers. He nailed it. Natural 20 on this hit to go after the dragon. And the way that I do critical hits, right, because I want them to feel impactful, right? Because I know that the basic way is you roll a crit, you double the damage, right? I feel like sometimes that doesn't really feel great, because if you do crit, double damage, you roll your damage die, it rolls a 1. Or both of your damage dice roll the 1. Or a 2 and a 1. Right? And now your crit does 2 damage. Or 4 damage. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel cool. Right? Because it's like, it doesn't feel like a crit. So what I do is, if you roll a crit, you get max damage. Right? Whatever your damage die is, you get max damage. That maxes out. That's how powerful your hit is. And on top of that, because it's a crit, you roll your damage dice a second time. And whatever that is, you just add that number. You don't double that or anything. So you get a max damage plus another damage die roll. And I feel like, especially at low levels, it makes crits feel a lot cooler, and without it feeling, like you're breaking something. So he rolls a natural 20 against the flying young blue dragon as it tries to escape and survive another day. And he rolls and he does enough damage to actually kill it as it's fleeing, and it crashes down into the town, and it lands on top of and through one of the inns on the far side, and like it takes out the roof and like half the building, because it just goes down and collapses. It is fucking crazy. It was crazy. It was one of those moments of like, holy shit, you think about this thing can happen, but you never actually see it, and then it happens. Like, there's no way he's gonna roll a 20. Right? And it wasn't trying to me being spiteful. I wasn't trying to like shaft him on it. It was genuinely like, okay, this is a hard shot to make, but you're totally welcome and capable of making it. Because if he rolled like a 15, right? If he rolled a 15 with his modifiers, he would have nailed it, right? It wouldn't have been a crit, but he would have hit him. It's the crit that actually killed it because of how much damage they did with the ballistas and among everything else. And so they killed the fucking dragon. And I was like, man, he's gonna come back in like 3 sessions. It's gonna be interesting. Nope. Not to fucking day. He's dead. He's fucking dead. And that is easily... He thinks about that so often. It's one of like the most iconic thing. It is the iconic thing for his character. And it's such a badass moment. Right? And again, this is the first adventure we did together. Right? Because two of the other people I had run an intro for. Him, this was his first time being in this campaign, right? And he hadn't played D&D for a while before this, like a long time, or like high school. And so this was like a fucking rad moment. It was so cool. And oh man, there's a lot of other moments too, but I'd say that one hands down is one that we thought about and I think about constantly, of just how cool that stuff could be. So yeah. And don't worry, more stories. We may even do a separate video one day, right? Or last year, we just shoot the shit and talk about D&D, among other things. But I think now is a great opportunity, because we've gone through all the questions, and I want to thank every single one of you that asked a question, right? I really appreciate it, and I really hope I did justice to your questions. And I know this video is going to be a bit long. I know it will be, okay? But I wanted to give genuine, real answers and not just, throw out quick ones and move on. I feel like you took the time to ask a question, and write it out. I feel like the least I could do is take the time and give you a real solid, genuine answer. Okay? So I appreciate you guys so much who did it. And all you guys in the comments, right, whether this comes out, whatever it comes out, actually, right? But a little teaser, I guess, right? Because I haven't really set a date yet, but wearing a shirt that's kind of a little bit of a hint, but it says, "Oh, don't worry, I have a plan," and that's because we're starting Baldur's Gate 3 soon. That's right. I'm hoping in the next like couple days, we're gonna start Baldur's Gate 3. It's gonna be fucking great. It's gonna be so cool. Okay? Because this was a poll we put out on the channel, and it was between Dragon Age Origins and Baldur's Gate 3, and it was tied because you guys were just like, what would be funny? It would be funny if we tied this for 3 weeks. It'd be fucking great, wouldn't it? Be a good goof. And it was hilarious. But I had to make a call. And with the help of the Discord, I made a roll on a D20 at like 2-3 a.m. It was like, okay, we designated numbers between like 1 and 10 for Dragon Age Origins, right? Or and then 11, or it was either 1 through 10 or 1 through 11, and then 12 to 20, something like that. It was 1 through 10 and 11 through 20, right? For 11 through 20 was for Baldur's Gate 3, 1 through 10 was for Dragon Age Origins. Rolled the die, rolled 2 dice the first time, just because I was like one for each. Rolled them both, They both rolled the same number. All right, and there's a video of it on the Discord. It's on there. You know, we rolled it twice. It was very funny. It's like, God damn it, of course. And then I rolled a second time with just one singular die. And it rolled exactly the lowest number to get Baldur's Gate 3. And in that moment, it was decided. So Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, I hope you guys are excited. For real. For real. I know tons of people are excited for both, right? Dragon Age, trust me, I'm just as excited for it too. Doesn't mean we're not playing it. It just means it's in line, right? And we still got plenty of other games too, right? We still got to get Andromeda, right? But we also got the Dragon Age series. We got Baldur's Gate, which, you know, shouldn't be too bad. Shouldn't be too long, right? Should be good. But I haven't put any thought into the game as far as like what race, class, or anything. So I'm gonna probably have to figure that out. I'll probably figure it out either as we play or probably just before. But I also don't really know all the subclasses and the classes available in the game. So we'll find out. But anyway, I wanted to put that out there at the end here. So Baldur's Gate 3, look forward to it. It's gonna be fun. You know, I haven't played it before, so I'm probably gonna make some mistakes. Probably gonna have a big learning curve. But if there's a lot of, you know, D&D translation over, should be probably a little bit easier to pick up. But again, either way, we're gonna have fun. And for real, thank you everybody so much for watching. This is a long ass video. It's crazy. Alright, it's basically me yapping straight for God knows how long. Probably like almost 3 hours at this point. So thank you everybody, for real, so much. Okay, thank you for being a part of the channel. Right, whether you joined today, tomorrow, yesterday, the day before. If it's been 4 days from now and you joined and you're checking this out, glad you're here. Crazy, right? Almost 5 years on the channel. Big adventures. 5,000 subscribers. 5,000 of you guys along the ride for various reasons at various points in time. And I think that's fucking cool as shit. That's huge. So, for real, let me know what you guys think about all these in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Right? Maybe you answer some of these questions. What do you think? See you guys in the next video. Whatever that ends up being. Bye-bye.